Go live on the.
Do you want to stick a
I'll do my
notification and all?
Yeah.
What's up?
Say hello.
All right, Mel.
Hello.
We're live on YouTube currently. Done.
I set myself up and I couldn't get it right.
Oh, bless you.
Understatement. Discord note out.
I haven't got one. Down the side of the
Only I can fuck up a. Oh,
I said, it ain't just me tonight then.
would have been nice and smooth.
Right.
Right.
Just remind Terry.
Should be big chillin'. I believe that's Discord notifications out, notifications, various different other places. Need to make it. Right, okay. So, welcome back, everyone. My name is Halford Sucks or Charlie, whatever it is you want to call me. Bloody, 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 blah. I'm pressing the wrong buttons. We got Ben here as well. Ben, fire away, big boy.
Hello, everyone. Glad to have you all back here again for episode 5 of the Beers and BS podcast. Today we are joined by two wonderful guests, one of which is an ex-paranormal investigator, and the other one is the father of a crackhead. Would you two like to be so kind as to introduce yourself to the lovely folks at home?
Ladies first.
Oh, aren't you sweet? My name is Heather. I live in Kentucky, USA. I was a paranormal investigator for 3-ish years. And whatever I say is just my opinion. So if you have a different opinion, you're entitled to it. That's all I got. Go ahead,
Cool.
Daddy.
I'm James, also known as Daddy Halford.
Can we just all appreciate for a second how wonky his fucking glasses are?
These are Mel's, not mine.
They don't sit straight.
No, straight.
Not straight. It looks like it'll go like that.
That's why I've got a big nose and I don't sit on it properly.
Go on, carry on. Sorry, mate.
Yeah. I'm James, or also known as Daddy Halford, father of the great Charlie Halford. And I've just been asked to come on tonight just to listen to Heather, as she's a paranormal investigator, which I find fascinating and very interesting to listen.
So, anyone that was here on Wednesday, was it Wednesday or Tuesday? Whatever that was, the last one, episode 4, where we spoke about horror stories and paranormal stuff. Heather came forward and told us that she was indeed a paranormal investigator, and I almost shit my pants in excitement, like, Heather, come on. So she has kindly agreed to come on, and she's going to share some of her stories with us in regards to her prior experiences and stuff like that, and I'm really, really excited for it. I know my dad was really interested, has been interested in all of this sort of stuff for years, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to get him on, and that way we never have to do it again as well, so that will kill two birds with one stone. And so, yeah, I'm really excited. If you have any questions, we'll probably answer questions at the end, and unless there's anything that Heather or anyone else sees that they want to bring up at the time. I will have to turn my dad down in between sections because he is making an echo, unless he's got headphones that you can put on.
No.
No, okay, I'll turn him down. If you need to talk, I'll turn you back up again. And we will go from there. So, Heather, when you're ready, mate, fire away. What have you got to share with us today? I'm really excited for this.
I put some links in the Discord, and basically, we were at a residence. Now, when you go in to do an investigation, you go in about an hour before you start to set up cameras. We usually set up 8 to 10 cameras, and then EVP recorders, which is basically a little voice set it in various places so you can catch our audio or anything else that decides to make its presence known. You know, and a lot of the equipment runs off of electromagnetic field. They
Right.
believe that when a spirit manifests itself, knocks something over, it's a burst of energy. So that's why they use anything electronic or it's the same equipment that they use to check wires in your walls. If you have power leakage, it can give you the same like paranoid. Somebody's watching me. If you have a massive leak of power near you, like if it's a faulty outlet or a bad hot water heater or something like that. So we would set up our equipment. You go through the house with an EMF detector and you check the outlets, you check the light fixtures, you check anything that's got a plug in it, you check it. If the room is a particular hotspot, we unplug everything. Obviously we're going to unplug somebody's refrigerator or something like that, but you just get like a baseline reading, like say the outlet in the back bedroom is throwing one light on your EMF detector, then you know that's your base. So anything above that's not normal. We set up flashlights. I don't know. Do you guys have mag lights? Do you guys use mag lights?
Like the big torches, like big black torches.
Yeah,
yeah.
big flashlights. If you unscrew the end of them to the point where you can just touch it and make contact, that's also another device that we would set up around the house, because it takes very little effort to that in to make contact.
Yeah.
So anyway, the first set of videos I set in the Discord, the gentleman had told us that he had some what he believed to be kid spirits in the house.
Right.
And anytime you approach it from a kid's point of view, they generally would have me or the girls on the team do the talking. But they seem to be more, what's the word?
Affectionate?
No, not really. They're just more open to speak to a female.
Okay.
It's
comfortable.
Yeah. And I just, so we use balls, like any kind of bouncy ball, whatever. The first video, you can see an actual kick.
Let me know when you want me to bring it up on screen, because it's not currently.
When you're ready, you play it.
You put that in the chat section, yeah?
Yeah, it's the very first one.
Very first one.
And the noise you hear in the background is like, it's a REM pod.
Right.
And it low frequency AM channels. So that's the static that you're hearing in the background.
Okay. It's on now. Was that you putting the ball down at the beginning?
No, it was one of the guys with us.
Okay. That's crazy. So, obviously,
there was nobody. It was just sitting there.
Yeah,
there was
no,
nobody.
of course, yeah.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So, obviously, one thing that comes when that sort of thing happens is like you see a lot of that on telly and things like that. And you see there are dozens of different shows regarding paranormal investigation and stuff like that. And obviously, a lot of it sparks the interest of people that like to try and myth bust sort of that. So, in terms of that, do you remember that particular day doing that, like vividly?
I do, and coming from a skeptic's standpoint, we take everything from that angle. We try to debunk everything before we ever post.
Yeah, of course.
And we were just all sitting there, and I think Sarah and I were in the room, and Sarah was talking to. It was just enticing. Like, you can come out and play. We're not going to hurt.
Yeah.
We have malicious intent towards you. We've left the ball here. If you want to play, we'll play with you, you know, and we're just going on with banter. And when you talk, you leave pauses. So if anything comes up, you catch it on EVP and it doesn't by your own voice.
Yeah.
And the room is pitch black. So the only light you get is from the REN pod. And we're just talking and talking and talking. And all of a sudden you hear, you know, like something hits the ball and we just what happened.
So,
And
so
Bill,
when that
we
happened, it was quite a loud hit to the ball then. It wasn't just a
Yeah,
gentle sort of nudge out of the way.
You know, it made that rubber ball kicky noise. You
Yeah,
know, that
yeah.
ding,
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? And I looked at Sarah and I just start doing this, you know, like keep on going. And Bill gets on the walkie-talkies because we keep walkie-talkies. There's certain things that we've had properties where we walked out in people's woods, you know. So we always have walkies on us, and Bill's like, I'm going to stop the recording right now. And we're like, okay. So we walk back in the back and we watch the IR camera because all that's in infrared, and see that ball. And we were just all pumped. So we moved the ball from that room into another bedroom because one of the kids was saying that she was playing with her friend at night. So obviously that's what we're thinking. And the next shot, you can see an orb.
Right.
And I'm sure we'll get into a long debate about orbs, but there is an orb coming out of the ball and around the ball in the second video.
Sorry, I hate to be rude. Is there any chance you could like turn your phone sideways or something? Because I think your mic is like hitting whatever it's resting on. It keeps causing it to cut out. All right, mate.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, keeps cutting out. It should be better.
Better?
Yeah, that should be right. It's only because sometimes when the mic Discord has filters on, so it might not pick everything up. You want me to go on to the second video then?
Yeah. Go ahead and play the second video.
While you're putting up the second video, I do have a question though. Have you?
Oh, fuck a duck, bruv.
Right.
I pressed the wrong button. Sorry.
It's going well. Have you ever been in a situation where you haven't managed to film something, say, or where? Yeah, is that frustrating to you that you could have caught something really crucial?
We've got a property here. It's in Dawson, Kentucky, and it was one of the stops for the Underground Railroad. So we did a lot of filming out in the woods, some of the old houses. And the person behind me, because I'm very open when I go into these situations. You have to be very receptive. And I'm like, did you just see my hair move? He's like, holy crap. And my hair literally went like that. Like somebody flicked it behind my shoulder, you know?
Yeah.
But we're out in the woods in the middle of the night, so nobody saw it. So there's a lot of frustration with it.
Yeah.
Bring up video number 2. This is the blinking anomaly next to the ball, yeah?
Yeah. It kind of flutters out of it.
Full screen.
And anytime there's something like this, we go through the possibility of dust, we go through the possibility of bugs, we go through any type of environmental contamination. I mean, it's literally flashing.
Yeah.
You know.
Bit down in the bottom left, right? So yeah. Bit there.
We also probably should have prefaced, we are incredibly sorry for any of you listening to this and not watching the video. This will be a very visual podcast as far as our podcasts go.
Yeah, and I mean, I've got them kind of broken up into groups, but I don't have it completely organized.
Yeah.
I tried.
It's
all
fine.
right,
That's like the motto of our podcast at this point.
Well,
No organisation, but we try, you know.
the issue is Discord. It literally says log into Discord, and I can't.
Yeah, it's not very helpful.
You know.
To watch you lost underneath all the
And you can tell the difference after you've taken, 5,000 video. The difference between a bug. You can see it almost flickers above it. There's a constant and then a flicker above it. And dust just kind of has a different flow to it. So it has to be a really blatant orb to be posted.
So for anyone that doesn't know what an orb is, do you want to give us the investigator's explanation of what an orb is?
The best way to put it is a ball of energy.
Right.
Basically a spirit that is, they say that it's a spirit that has come out of, passed through. It's just a manifestation of, here I am, and it's hard to explain. I mean, it's basically a ball of energy. There's no like fancy, explanation of what it is. Just different interpretations of what it means, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. What place is that? Sorry, what place have you investigated that's really sort of like frightened you, maybe freaked you out a bit too much, and you feel like you have to leave?
The very last one I did, I quit.
Did you?
If that's not something you want to go into, you don't have to. I did specifically say to my dad, nothing too intrusive.
It's kind of a lengthy story. I don't have any video of it, but I'm not. Now I'm cool to talk about it. If I tear up, don't mind me. It's like one of my things. We got a call from a lady that was upset about her daughter, and her daughter was 7, 8 years old, I guess, maybe 6. She was young, and she'd been having a lot of behavioral issues. Now, disclaimer: if somebody's like, "We need an exorcism," we never mess with that. That wasn't, in this instance, that's probably more of what they needed than us, but it is what it is. Okay, so the daughter had killed her pet hamsters and put them in a star shape on the floor. And, mom automatically goes to pentagram dead hamsters. So, Bill calls me and that I'm not the best when kids are involved. I just get too emotional. But he needed somebody sensitive. Now, when I say I'm sensitive, I can walk into a house and know somebody's there. Like the lady I work for, her husband passed away in the hallway of her house, and he's there every day with her. Like, and he doesn't bother me. He's just there watching out over her. This was a whole different feeling. It's like somebody pushing down on your shoulders. If somebody plopped you in the middle of a stadium full of people, that's what it felt like in that house. Just, like I was surrounded. So we go in and do our normal setup, and this house is 3 levels. It's the middle, and then upstairs, the attic / like bedrooms. It was an A-frame style house, so it had those slanted rooms at the top.
Yeah.
And in between each of them had little crawl spaces. Weird house, and then a basement. So I go in, and the kid automatically attaches to me, and I just knew I was in for a long. So we go upstairs. Bill and the guys are setting up cameras. I'm like, I'm going to sit upstairs with her. Well, I didn't realize that she had gotten one of the walkie-talkies out of our equipment. And and I'm watching cameras and camera angles, and they get the basement set up, work to the next level, set some stuff up outside, and I'm sitting there, and this little girl comes in front of the camera like this. Now, in infrared, you've got like these googly eyes, it's weird. And she's like, I can see you, Heather. Can you see me? I can see you. Freaked me the fuck out. Like, straight the fuck out, right? Because I'm already getting, like, off this house. So I call Bill, and I'm like, Bill, I know that we're doing this for the little girl, but she needs to be out of here. He's like, why? I'm like, she needs to be out of here. So, my friend Candy was with me, and Candy is even more sensitive than I am. Us together is just, it's a mess. So the boys get the girl to go outside with mom and dad and sit in the car because we try to empty the house out, so there's no sound contamination or influences. And I grab Candy and the EVP, and I get on the stairs and I start to walk to the basement, and I hit my knees and just start bawling, and I just uncontrollable crying. And Candy started doing the same thing, and we had to back out and walk into the yard, and it was like, I think this girl had some mental issues, and that house was like a fucking portal, or I don't know. It was just really, really, really full of negative energy. So we start to get through the investigation. The little girl comes back. She latches on to me again as soon as she walks into the house. And I looked at her mother and I said, I'm not trying to be rude, but I need you to not have your daughter touch me. Because when that kid touched me, it was like 1,000 volts of electricity going through my body. And I would just stand there and just shake. I couldn't stand still. I was just constantly shaking. And I couldn't walk in the basement. I could not physically walk in the basement. So the boys decide, well, we're going to go antagonize this thing because we're men. Fucking of course, right? So me and Candy go outside, and they go and they're like, "Were you a fucking pussy? You gonna say something to us?" Blah blah blah. Got zero reaction for the guys. Zero. So they're like, "Well, let's do a cleansing on the place. Let's leave." Okay, cool. We do a cleansing. We burn sage. We do the Lord's Prayer, and what's the other one? I'm having a complete brain fart. It's a prayer to saint somebody, and I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, so we cleanse the house. I go upstairs to start to clean. Now, when you cleanse the house, you want to start at the very back, whatever the back would be, and push all the way out. You clear all the way out, every room, every window, out the front doors. So you're physically pushing whatever out the house if you can. So I go upstairs to start. And remember I told you there's those little crawl spaces?
Yeah.
Rocks start flying out of the crawl space at me.
Really?
Like, it looked like chunks of rock salt. So I went outside. I was done. I said, Bill, you have to do the blessing. I can't do this. I can't be in this house anymore. I'm physically overwhelmed. I can't do it. Like, it emotionally drained me. So I go home. And I'm still on to the same story. I go home. And I'm so tired because we quit at 3 in the morning, about 3:30. So I got home about 4:30, 5 o'clock normally. And I just pass out on my couch. And at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon the next day, I hear a walkie-talkie go off in my bag. And it goes, Mommy, can you hear me? I shit my fucking pants. I called Trent.
Yeah.
I called Trent because we had everything labeled. We put everything away. We counted everything before we left. We were very tedious about our equipment. And I called Trent and I said, get to my fucking house and get this fucking walkie-talkie, and I'm never doing a goddamn investigation again. He's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, fucking get over here right now. So when he got here, the batteries on the walkie were dead. They wouldn't even work. But that kid or somebody had taken one of those walkie-talkies and put it, because I always packed a backpack with me, and it had a zipper on the top, like pocket of the lip that opened. And I shit my pants and quit my job.
Crazy.
That's when I quit.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's the fucking experience for sure, isn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
So
That's honestly the first time I've told it without crying.
take however much time you need, man. It's all good. So in terms of that story in particular, what was there a verdict to it, or did you never fucking find out? Did you just walk away and be done with it? Didn't care. What did you personally think it was?
Yeah,
though?
I didn't care. I didn't want to know. I still can't drive down that street, and this was whatever the date is on the videos. I mean, it's been 5 or 6 years since I investigated. 7 years. That is literally physically the scariest thing that I ever did in the field. I mean, there's been creepy stuff, and things have touched me. And the very first investigation I went on, it was a homestead, and it was like a Halloween thing. They needed an extra person. Trent knew I was sensitive. He's like, I've known it since I met you. Just come on this thing with me. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So we're sitting in the living room of this place, and I hear, and I'm like, oh, fuck. Because, like, you kind of always know, whether you're sensitive to something or not. You know whether you're putting that belief on yourself or if you're within, but when you go in somewhere and all those feelings are validated, it's something. I don't even know how to put words to it. It's something. You just
yeah, no, I don't blame you for not knowing how to put words to it. I don't think many people would.
Yeah.
An odd sort of question. I could be completely off the mark here, but it's just purely my curiosity at this point. Do you feel like, because you'd been doing that for what, just over 3 years, I think you said?
Yeah, I did it for about 3.5 years.
Do you think that the length of time that you had almost opened yourself up to spirits and that whole side could have affected that that final investigation negatively in terms of not having any defenses and being almost too open to them, or am I completely off the mark here?
Well, you're kind of on. The reason I say that is the girl I was investigating with that evening, we were dealing with something with a friend of ours also, and we've been dealing with it for a few weeks. There's a local folklore here from the Bell family, and it involved a bunch of Indians being killed and a little girl that got killed, and supposedly she was a witch, yada yada yada. It's the Bell witch story. Every kid is scared to death of it. Yeah, that's literally an hour from me. Adams, Tennessee is maybe 30 to 45 south of me. And she had went to the caves, and it is known among anybody who knows anything about anything paranormal. When you go to an investigation, when you go onto a site, albeit like a natural formation or someone's house, you never take anything with you. You don't take a rock with you. You don't take a stone with you. Nothing that anything can have the ability to attach to. And she took some rocks home with her from there, and she was going through a lot of spiritual torment. We actually did an investigation, not a filmed investigation, in her house just to see what we were dealing with. And we ended up calling in a pastor because she was that bad. So part of me has always wondered if something wasn't attached to me because I was so attached to Shannon when we went into that house, and it found something even darker to hang on to, attack me. I don't know, because I was, up until that point, I was extremely open with my emotions and my mind, because you have to not put limitations on anything in your mind, because anything is a possibility when you go into a situation like that.
Yeah.
The first time you limit yourself, you're going to miss things that could potentially be important. You know, it's
Yeah.
you have to be completely open about it.
Yeah.
So, yes, I do think I may have tagged on a little extra spiritual bullshit to that
Yeah.
that investigation. You
It
know,
wasn't exactly helping you out. Yeah.
yeah.
So one other question. Sorry, I am just bombarding you with questions
you're
now.
Just do it.
So if you were to go to someone's house and they say, "Hey, we think XYZ is happening," you go there and you confirm XYZ is there. Do most people then turn around and say, "Yeah, we want them out," or or do they say, "Yeah, no, we're happy with them still being here," or how does it really go from there once you confirm or deny something? Is there really a process after that?
Is there? Well, it's up to obviously up to the homeowner. You can perform a cleansing. Sometimes after somebody has been there, the entire energy changes, because it's a non-malicious spirit that is just like, "Hey fuckers, I'm over here, pay attention to me." You know what I mean? So sometimes after they get that attention, it sets a whole different type of feeling in the house. It's almost like a calm. And I mean, I felt that calm being in houses and doing these type of investigations. You know, some of them can get along with their demons, some of them can't. So we perform a cleansing. You know, sometimes it takes 2 times of a cleansing. We have a local woman. She's a Wiccan and a Reiki healer. And we would call her if it was too intense for her to do a deep tarot card, bird saying, sage burning. I can't do all that crap. I have no interest in it. You know, I don't need any extra energy in this.
Yeah.
So obviously, the whole concept of it all is incredibly personal to you. And I think when you watch kind of documentaries and shows online, and that's sort of what I'm going to compare this to. It's the only real experience I have in regards to it.
Right.
It's hard to see that personal aspect from it, and I think that's why speaking to someone firsthand is so fascinating.
It makes a difference.
It really does. Yeah, it really does, because it's easy to see people sort of hide behind a camera on a show, edit out the bits they don't want people to see. But obviously this is raw, this is uncut, this is live, and seeing you actually get emotional about things. I'm going to use the word incredible.
You know, I don't bullshit.
Yeah, there's obviously it's obviously true. And what then, therefore, how the fuck do you even begin to get into that sort of thing? At what point did you say to yourself, "I want to investigate the paranormal"?
Man, I've always been into creepy shit. Always been into creepy shit. I don't watch anything but sci-fi and horror, and I've always had that, I know somebody's here, but I'm going to fucking ignore him kind of attitude towards anything of the sort, And I'm a musician. I sing, I play guitar. My guitar's right over there in the corner.
Yeah.
And Trent also did music, and it all started with me and him doing a little bit of music together. But we weren't dating or anything. He's just a really good friend of mine. And he came over here one night and we were talking about music and playing our instruments and drinking and bullshitting. And he was like, I do the paranormal stuff, right? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, if I'm totally wrong, just tell me to shut the fuck up. But you're sensitive, right? And I'm like, I think so. And he's like, I'm pretty sure you are. He's like, would you be interested in coming on an investigation with us on Saturday? We don't have a third or a fourth, and we really don't like to go into investigations with just 2 of us. We prefer to have an extra female. And I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go, And going into that was when I heard my name the first time, was that first investigation, So going into it, I'm excited, but I'm scared and I don't know what to expect. And I'm telling you, that first that I heard, I was like, fuck me. Okay. Okay, here we go. Come talk to me. You just either accept it or it scares the fuck out of you. So there's no in between.
After that first one, was there kind of, did you find yourself hooked on it? Did you want to get back out there and do more? Or was it sort of just
Oh, yeah.
fascination, like curiosity.
I'd have done it
that
every
type of-
night. When I first started, I would have done it every night.
Really?
Because I'm a night owl anyway. You guys see me in Discord. I go to
Yeah,
bed at
yeah.
like 4 or 5 in the morning, you know? So doing an investigation like that it's not a big deal. I don't sleep, so
So is that your
it-
full-time job then, or was that like a part-time thing you
no, it was
tried, or?
just we didn't get paid for it. We did it for free.
Oh, okay, okay. That's
Yeah,
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, people would donate. We had not a GoFundMe, but we had a PayPal set up. If anybody wanted to donate or make any type of donation to us, it was fine, but we did it all for free. We put our own money into it. At the time, I was a full-time tattoo artist.
Oh, okay.
So, I bought the REM pod. I bought some of the EMF detectors, the EVPs. We just kind of all chipped in and bought everything for it, But yeah, it's addictive.
Yeah,
But
that's crazy.
it's not. Yeah, it's cool that there's like ghosts and whatever, but it's the addictive part of it is validation for your beliefs.
Yeah.
It really is. When you're standing there and you see a ball punted across the room in front of you, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
This shit's real, man.
It's really interesting to hear about. Like, obviously, it is like, going back to the idea of a sort of program. It's really easy to kind of see that stuff on the television, but to hear about it as well is like to actually hear firsthand experience is fascinating, and hear like the emotions that went through you and things like that. Because, like, I mean, in regards to your first ever investigation, what was you actually
It was in Clarksville, Tennessee. It was a guy that worked at a bar down there called the Warehouse, and the Warehouse is where all the rock bands come in to play in the dive bar. So it's like heavy metal and shit. I like rock music. And it was one of the bouncers, and he had traced his lineage back to Vlad the Impaler.
What?
And he had a sword that had been passed through the family for years and years and years that was believed to be part of Vlad's collection or whatever. So basically the dude had a hot sword in his house. He was, it made him feel creepy. Did he have something in his house? Yes. Was it malicious? No. Did he amp it up like it was the biggest shit ever? Absolutely. You take the good with the bad, Some people are just fucking scared of the dark, and that's their only problem,
But there were times then where you would get called to an investigation, you'd show up, and it
Yeah.
would just be like, "No, mate, you're kind of just making things up in your head and scaring yourself."
Like you just walked into your grandma's house,
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting to see. What was
We
the
we would tell people, we'd give them the explanation that I gave you, as far as you need to get your outlets checked. You need to have your hot water heater checked. You have a large leak of electricity in this room, and an influx of that type of energy into your body will give you paranoia. It will, so we would give them advice to potentially help their problem without telling them they're full of shit.
yeah,
You know.
crazy, isn't it? So, aside from the first and the last, what other sort of really notable investigations did you have to take part in? Were
The
there-
underground
the underground one.
yeah. It was one of my good friends owns a house out there, and he was like, "No, I did some research on the property. His grandmother passed away. So it was her property, and he did research on the property because he was looking to sell it, and then he found out that it was potentially part of the Underground Railroad. I'm sure you all know what the Underground Railroad is.
Don't.
No, as a inept Brit bong, I'm sorry, we don't know shit.
Sorry. Fuck. Okay, so we all know that about slavery and that whole
Yep.
lovely ordeal. Right. Okay, so the Underground Railroad was a network of people that would smuggle slaves from one place to another in order to push them out towards freedom.
Right.
So it was basically a stopping point for plantation owners that were trying to smuggle slaves out of an enslaved area into a free zone so they could have their freedom. And which involved a lot of, death and horrible shit. Anyway, so mixed amongst the dozens of spirits that were on that property, it was like walking into a subway station when you walked into the woods there. It was just like just people, like being in a mall or a busy shop. I don't know how to explain that other than that. There's no like memorable things that happened to me. It was just the feeling of so much positive energy. But you have to realize that even though they were not malicious spirits, your intent can make a non-malicious spirit malicious. I'll start with that. John was the house owner. Abby was his daughter. I was really close with Abby. She was kind of an oddball kid that was into, Tim Burton and shit, like I was, So she looked up to me. We go into the house, and Bill's a dick, by the way. He's the one that owns this. He's a fucking asshole. We're just clear that up. Bill's the one that's like, I'm gonna fucking antagonize these motherfuckers. He's that guy. So,
so that's how you do the accent. Okay.
Hey, ask Pud. He got on with me to play Warzone the other day, and I said, "Hello, Puddin'," and he was like, "Whoa,
what the fuck?"
So anyway, we get Abby in the house because Bill's intent on bringing this child into the situation, which I am never okay with, obviously, for obvious reasons. This is pre that time, and I think there were so many spirits there at once trying to get acknowledgement or attention or some type of validation that they were there. Bill came at this from a malicious angle, and God, I wish we'd have got it on tape. He wanted Abby to talk to the spirit, and he was like, well, if you really want us to know who you are, why don't you talk to this child? If you're her grandmother, she sure would like to hear from you. Just fucking chicken head yapping, And all of a sudden, her necklace goes whoosh, and just shatters all over the fucking floor.
Jesus.
It was nuts. And that was like 2 weeks before I quit. So it was like energy building up,
Did you have people that you really didn't like working with then, aside from Bill, by the sound of things, who was
Bill? That was it.
Interesting to say the least.
Okay, look. Bill was the only issue. We could listen to an EVP that was unquestionably saying Shannon or saying fuck you or saying suck a bag of dicks, and fucking Bill would be like, it said Bill. No, it didn't, Bill. Bill thought everything was saying Bill. Everything.
Oh, no.
Bill.
And are you still in? Are you?
Bill.
I'm sorry. Are you still in contact with any of them then, and keeping up to date on anything, or are you completely out of the game now? Want nothing more to do with it, kind of thing?
I'm still friends with Trent. He got out of it too.
Go to the
But
toilet.
the only person that's still on the group is Bill.
All right.
He rotates the whole group out about every 3 or 4, 5 months, I guess, because people get sick of Bill.
Oh, right.
It just goes to show you can be a complete total cocksucker and still have an experience.
Yeah. Did you ever have any real like wanker clients, should we call them? I'm not really sure what the word would be for them, but did you ever have people who were just absolute, like either just completely adamant that something was going on regardless of whether it was going on, or whether they were just bell ends to you in general or stuff like that?
when people get to a point that they're like, I'm going to call my local paranormal investigator because I'm scared, they're usually grateful for you to show up. So
Okay.
there was never really, not really any kind of,
No.
we had a husband that we had to ask the wife to leave, but he was just skeptical and putting out so much bad juju that it was like, he was being a dick to his wife too. So
Oh, right.
I think
Nice.
a lot of that was the bad energy that he was putting into the household.
Yeah.
And I, to this day, 100% believe that there was something in that house that was trying to protect his daughter from him.
Okay. Right.
But I had no reason to prove, and I had nothing to prove it,
Yeah.
So
Would you ever ask that?
I had a question and it's now completely gone, and that's going to really annoy me now until I think of it. Sorry. Give me a second.
What you saying, Dad?
I was going to say, have you ever like been asked to investigate somewhere, and as soon as you pull up outside the place, you sort of like get a feeling it's not that you don't want to be there, or that you feel that you
Yeah.
don't want to investigate it. It's
Numerous
a bad
times.
atmosphere, bad feeling.
Numerous times.
But
Sorry?
how did you deal with that? Sort of?
Numerous times.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that sort of?
You just kind of, this is my thing. Like, I'm a huge pothead, whatever.
Oh,
If I
tut.
yeah. I'm not, I mean, I eat edibles. I eat a big fucking handful before we got on here.
Yeah, got to deal with being with us somehow. That's probably the best way you're going to do it.
I would always go into situations clear-headed. But when it was something like that, unless it was like that final investigation, if it was just like a shitty feeling, I would pop an edible every now and then. Not very often, because I didn't like to cloud my judgment or give myself any paranoia, undue paranoia, But in general, like if I didn't do something like that, I just would have to sit in my car and turn up some like rock music real loud and just kind of amp myself up and get myself focused to not put malicious intent into what I was doing. Because if you go into something like that you do have a bad feeling about, you can put bad energy into it yourself, and they can feed off that,
Yeah, I've heard that they can feed off. They sort of like feed off your fear.
Yeah.
maybe.
There was a lot of investigations, and an investigation's only 3 hours long. That's nothing. I work 10, 12, 14-hour shifts every day, but you would feel like somebody just pulled your batteries out at the end of it, especially if it was a really active one. I mean, just exhausted. It just sucks everything out of you.
So how do you sort of like get over it once you leave and you go home and you're sort of like thinking about the investigation? How do you sort of like build yourself back up again?
There's not a lot of them that I really had issue with. Of course, the first thing I did when I would come home is like shower, because in my head I was like washing all the bad juju off, Plus I stank of sage and, people's houses. Like a lot of the houses were kind of sketch, But you just have to have good intent when you go in and when you leave, because the second you walk out of there with any fear or any I guess fear and raw emotion, you don't want anything to attach to you or attach to that, and you don't want to take anything home with you, because you can take things home with you.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah. They can attach to objects and people, and anything. They say, if this is my favorite fucking cup, and my whole life I use this cup, when I die, my spirit can legitimately be attached to this cup and go with it where it goes. So,
Have you ever, sorry, I keep asking questions, but have you
No,
ever
go ahead.
sort of like gone home, you've done an investigation, you've gone home and you feel like that maybe one of the spirits is attached to you, and it's
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's in your house, in your home?
hmm
How do you get rid of it, or how do you deal with that?
The same way I get rid of it out of their house. I crawled up I've got an attic, and I crawl up in my attic and get in the back corner of my attic and light sage, and I just start saging and pushing.
Yeah.
Go from there to the bathroom, to the back bedroom, to this bedroom, to my living room, and I just sage my whole house.
Wow.
And it's not just, I mean, the sage helps, obviously, but a lot of people believe that the prayers work. And I do, not saying that they don't. I do believe a prayer works, but I believe when it's something that has a malicious intent, it is more apt to follow you home if it's a malicious intent. And in that instance, it's all about the attitude of this is my house. You're not welcome here. Get the fuck out. You really have to put that out there and mean it without any fear. This is my house. You're not welcome here. Get the fuck out. And that's basically what I do, and it works.
So do you feel more confident doing that in your own house than you do in, say, someone else's, or is it all sort of the same to you and you go in with the same sort of mindset either way?
It is the same mindset, but I'm sure I'm more, I have more of a foundation in this house. I own this house. This is my fucking house. So I'm sure it's a little more intense because this is my house.
Yeah.
But I tried to keep that same energy, especially if there was kids in the home. Or I had a girl that called me. They lived in Providence. Providence is about 15 miles. I don't know which direction that is. I'm high. And this, whatever was in their house wasn't hurting anybody but her daughter. Like, it just kept attacking her daughter. But they were also doing renovations. And it was like a 150-year-old home. So when you start doing renovations in a house that old and somebody's spirit's attached to it that's been very docile beforehand, you will wake them up. They will not be happy you're fucking with their house. And she got so scared when we were doing that investigation because something was fucking with her. I literally physically had to crawl in bed with her daughter. And I had to put the intent of she is mine and not yours. Get the fuck out. Like, that's basically how the investigation went. And she never had any problems after that night. We cleansed the house and put some, I think, because that girl was probably 17 at the time, I think seeing a female stand up to something like that and stand up for her like that, I think that gave her balls.
Irony behind that, yeah.
I think it gave her balls because mine are pretty huge. So
Yeah.
And we're
It's
still
empowering,
friends to
isn't
this
it?
day.
It's very much sort of if she can do it, I can.
Yeah. And that was the whole intention. I kicked the boys out of the house. I'm like, look, you guys get the fuck out. Mom, get the fuck out. We're doing this. And she's like, I don't want. I'm like, we're doing this. We're doing this right fucking now. Because she was the one getting antagonized and she needed to know how to stand up for herself in that situation.
Yeah.
Because the cleansing may help and it may not help. But every time there's something coming at you and you go at it with the fuck you intention, they'll leave you alone.
Yeah. So it's almost like a battle sometimes between the living and the spirit world in terms of if you're fucking with us, we'll fuck back with you. But ultimately, if there seems to be no real malicious problem coming from them initially, you go in with the intent of very much being, hey, let's just kind of get to the bottom of this.
Yeah. Hey, my name's Heather. What's your name? It's just like meeting a person. It's
Yeah.
no different. Hi, my name's Heather. I'm here to talk to you. I have no malicious intent or ill will towards you. I just want to have a conversation, see why you're here. If you're happy, you're here. If you're not happy, normal questions. It's
Match the kind of vibes that they're giving them.
Yeah, and the same tune, putting out the kind of vibes you want to have returned to you.
Yeah, of course.
So that's why I'm not a believer of this whole antagonistic aspect of investigation, because when you go at something with, if some guy walks up to you in a bar and he's like, hey man, fuck you, you're gonna knock him the fuck out or give him a fuck you in turn. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, of course.
It's the same way with dealing with a spirit.
When we was talking on Wednesday, Ben and I were mindlessly going about what we were talking about. Obviously one of the topics that came up was sort of Ouija boards and stuff. Have you ever done one? And if you have, sort of what experiences did you have with it? And if not necessarily a Ouija board, what about other kind of spirit world objects per se?
I don't fuck with Ouija boards. And I don't, it's not Ouija. I know Mattel makes fucking Ouija boards. It's intent. It's the same way as a seance, or you're opening a portal to something. And it can present itself as something it's not. Spirits are very good at themselves, you know. A very malicious spirit can manifest itself to a child as a child, and in fact not be a child and be some type of a malicious spirit. So I don't, if there's something already there, there's no need to amplify it with something like that.
No. Do you ever regret everything that you've done in a way, almost as though, because obviously you have all of these memories now, some memories may be good and others, as you've mentioned at the end of your investigations, aren't exactly brilliant. Do you ever sit there and think, I kind of wish I hadn't got into all of that tat now?
No.
I'd rather, no, you're fully behind everything that you've done, happy with what you've done, yeah.
Would I do it again? Probably. But I have had people over the years, because I posted it on my Instagram, I posted it on my Facebook. Everybody knew I was doing it, you know, and wondering how I'm not dead after tattooing 16 hours and then up for 4 hours else and sleeping 2 and doing it again, you know.
Caffeine is one hell of a drug.
Yeah. Back then it was cocaine, but we're not going to talk about that. No, actually that was before that. I got myself off track, but no, I don't regret doing any of it. I've had friends contact me. My friend Megan, man, I won't even fucking go in her house. Before I ever started investigating, I walked in her house. Her dog jumped up and tried to bite me. Animals love me. Let me just put that out there. I can have a feral cat in my lap in like 3 minutes. The dog tried to bite me as soon as I walked into her house. She goes and puts the dog up, and I look at her and I'm like, "What is in your house?" She goes, "What do you mean?" I was like, "There's something here that's not us." And she's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then, like, fast forward 2 years, and I'm 10 investigations deep, and Megan's like, "Heather?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Remember that one time you said there was something in my house?" "Yeah." "Well, you were right, and now it's torturing my husband, and he can't sleep at night, and he's having nightmares. So, like, you know,
yeah.
I won't. Whatever's in her house is extremely malicious and does not fucking like me. So I can't go in there.
Do you ever find that your sensitivity and your experience with it all now affects you? Well, affects your, not necessarily day-to-day life, but say you were to go and look to buy a new house or a new flat or something. If you were to experience not necessarily bad vibes, but I can't really think of another word for it. Would that put you off of it, or?
Oh, absolutely. It's not changed the way I look at anything. It's more than anything, it's validated the fact that I'm not fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Right? You know, that I can walk in somewhere, and if I'm like, something's here, you know,
yeah,
that's a good possibility that something's there. So I've always kind of taken that mindset. It's just, it has been validated for me that I'm a magnet for goddamn spirits. And I have to, like, if I go into someone's house to visit them, I turn it off. It would be the best way to put it, I guess.
yeah.
Because I don't want that emotional tie. I don't want that emotional attachment. I don't want them to attach to me emotionally. I want to enjoy what the fuck I'm doing and not have someone going, hey, can you tell them I'm here? Hey. And that's what it feels like. You know, I'm not physically hearing that, but that's what it feels like. So, I don't approach anything different other than to tune it out sometimes because you have to.
Is that something that you learn over time through doing more and more investigations, or did you always have that sort of from the start? You wanted to try and always separate it, yeah.
I just didn't know what the fuck it was, you know?
Oh, right, okay, I see what you mean, yeah.
I just didn't know what the fuck it was. And it's, I did learn how to be more skeptical, I guess, and learning things like electromagnetic fields and things like that that I wasn't educated on, to be able to debunk things that are going on around me. But you know, the one time when I was 10 that I heard somebody say my name and nobody was there, they were probably there.
Yeah.
So
Does
it's
it
just
does it ever annoy you when you may have experienced something or got something on tape or something like that, and people are just immediately in there to debunk it and say, "Oh no, it wasn't that. It was the wind or whatever." Or does that just not affect you at this point? You're almost like,
You're
cock
right.
it. Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
I was
no,
there and
fair
you
enough.
weren't, so go fuck yourself. That's how
Nope.
I approach that.
Good point.
Sorry, Dad. What was you going to say a minute ago?
No, it's nothing urgent, but nothing important. Have you sort of like ever gone on to an investigation and you get all the EVP tools and stuff like that, and you've not, or is there a tool or an instrument you wish you had used and never got hold of or borrowed or bought?
Um,
Is there one specific item you wish you'd bought to investigate, sort of thing?
I wish we'd have bought a spirit box sooner. We did end up buying one, but I really wish we'd have bought a spirit box sooner.
Mhm.
Sorry, for the uninitiated, can you explain what that is? Because I've got no clue what a spirit box is. Sorry.
A spirit box, it's basically a box that runs on AM frequencies, which nobody uses AM radio much anymore, right? And it at a very high speed cycles through all of the AM frequencies. So it is believed that spirits can pick out words used to vocalize. Um, we were doing an investigation downtown here, and we did some research on the building and found out that it used to be a brothel back in the day. Right. So we're doing this investigation, and we didn't have a camera in the fucking room, and I wish to God we had. Because we were just like, there's nothing here. We were just wrapping up and trying to pack our shit as we went, because we were kind of over it. Well, the minute we took the cameras down, we got the spirit box in here. And Trent's like, I go and lay on the lady's bed. And I knew her. She didn't care. I took my shoes off. I didn't have my shoes on her bed. I go and lay down on the bed. And Trent's like, I've got a lady over here for you. How much are you willing to pay? And you start hearing 25 cents come out of the spirit box, $1.25, like they started bidding on me. And it was the craziest shit, man.
Crazy.
It was super crazy. But it was fun because we were playing with the spirits and they were playing back, so that's a whole different kind of experience.
I was watching a YouTube video. I follow a lot of paranormal investigators and stuff and whatever on YouTube, and there was one a specific tool they used, and it was like beams of light shining onto the wall, like maybe laser lights.
What's it called? It's like the motion detector thing from the Xbox.
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
spirit would walk through it, and you'd see like the figure
Mm.
of the ghost of the spirit or whatever.
Mhm.
Have you ever used one of them?
Mm-mm. No, that came about after right after I quit. That was something that popped up on the spectrum of paranormal investigating, and I do wish I'd had a chance to use that because,
Yeah, that's a pretty cool tool.
especially when we were out in the woods, for the Underground Railroad, I would just in my head, I imagine I'd see, just a whole herd of people because it was so full of people. But no, I never got a chance to. I wish I would have, but I didn't get a chance to use one.
I've heard of the spirit box you was talking about, and when you see these investigators go in and as you say, to say one word, you think, well, we should have never asked that question. Now, is there things that you wish you'd never asked the spirit?
I wish I would have never asked the spirit that was in that little girl's house to talk to me. Like I wish 100%, man. No, the only regrets I have are like just situations like that where I made myself a little too open. like I never asked any malicious questions. I never asked anything antagonistic, but I can't say that for my partners in the situations because the boys like to clear the girls out and go in and be dicks. So, I wish they'd never been dicks in some scenarios, but as far as me, no.
Easy, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
some of the stuff that's like that you've obviously gone through doing this. It's absolutely balmy. I can't even begin to imagine what it must feel like having the experience of that sort of thing happening to you. Like, obviously, in terms of your beliefs, are you religious? Do you believe in God or do you believe in spirits as a separate?
Both.
Because you obviously believe in the prayers working.
Yeah.
Does that affirm your kind of belief in God as a?
I do believe no. I was raised in church. I was raised with religion in my life. I just believe that people get so wrapped up into religions that they close themselves up off to the impossibility of interpretation. I think whether it's Buddha or whoever that you're worshiping, you're still worshiping a God. And a God, if you read a Bible, it literally says, I am everything. So God is God, baseline. You know what I'm saying? People, like, especially around here, the strict Bible beater. I live in the Bible Belt. There's literally like 5 churches in this town, they want to believe in the Holy Spirit and the devil and this and that and the other, but not believe in spirits when it's obviously in the Bible, So it's just all on your interpretation of things.
One of the kind of connotations that comes following on from a spirit is negative spirits can be I'm going to kind of link it back to what we were talking about last week in regards to kind of witchcraft and like negative things like that. Negative spirits can be some sort of manifestation of the devil. Is that something you agree with, or do you think a spirit is particular to an individual? That makes sense.
It's when people are sick or when people are depressed, when you're at your low, that's when you're more susceptible to a negative or bad spirit. I think a lot of people's depression, and I know I'm tapping on your last week's podcast, but I think a lot of time depression can be a bad spirit in your house that has latched onto you and fed off of that depression. I don't know if I'm answering your question right.
Answer it how you see. If it sparks anything else in me, I'll carry on.
I just think that, like I said, I've said it 100 times tonight. It's intent, So when you're down and you're low, and just like you're susceptible from influences from negative people in your life, you're also susceptible to negative energies. So it's all about your state of mind. It really is.
Sorry, Dad. I have to tone you down. You'll have to. Sorry, say it again.
I'm gonna say so the spirits will feed off your weakness, maybe, as you say.
Absolutely.
Like if you're depressed, if you're low,
and that happens all the time. But absolutely, you just have to experience the almost fog that you get in when you're around a negative energy. I mean, it's literally like sitting in a heavy fog. To understand how it can drain off you, because literally use you for a battery. So if you're already at your lowest, and you have this negative energy that comes to feed off you because you're open and susceptible, because you're just like, the world sucks, I hate myself. Oh, okay, well, hate this. That's kind of what it is. It really is.
So, from your perspective, what causes a spirit to hang around and kind of latch onto an area or a thing or something like that? Because obviously, if everyone that passed or everyone that moved on became a spirit, there'd be a lot more than we think there is. Is there any sort of particular kind of reason that someone might stick around or someone might stay behind? And I I guess I'm maybe looking at it in kind of like a haunting sense, although that's probably definitely the wrong way of looking at it. Fucking oh, you cunt! Sorry, fucking Siri started talking to me when I said that, bro. Oh, I shit myself, man. I was like, where is that voice coming from? You bastard.
I wondered why
Fuck.
you just shit your pants.
Oh my god, I heard another voice and absolutely fucking cacked my pants, mate.
Oh, fucking
Sorry. In regards to spirits, fuck, that really has shaken me. In regards to spirits, latching onto a particular area or a particular object, is there a reason that they would do that? Because obviously a spirit is a passed on individual. Now, why might they stay behind and why might others not? Sort of thing. Heart rate's just up by about 50.
Parents have a tendency to get attached to objects. I don't know why some do or some don't. I have no clue about that. I just believe that a lot of them either have something unfinished that they didn't finish beforehand, or I think a lot of like the children's spirits get stuck out of fear. And you have somebody that's played a piano or a guitar, from the time that they were in a teenager till the time they were 90, and that was something that they loved with all their heart. I believe that they can attach to something like that out of love.
Yeah. So it's an emotional thing.
Yeah, I think it's emotional.
And do you think that obviously emotions can be incredibly strong while alive as well? Do you think it's strengthened once passed on in spirit form? Because obviously attachment is something that is very prevalent when someone is living, let alone when they're not. Do you think that because obviously I'm gonna compare it kind of to if you watch like a horror film to do with like possession of that and the possession of an object, is that because they were so emotionally attached to it, and then when someone tries to change that, it kind of pisses them off?
Oh yeah.
In that regard,
Yeah.
that's when it can become malicious.
Especially when it's like a house. Say a man passes away and that's a house that he built and he poured all his love and heart and soul into building that house. And you come in as you go knocking walls down. They're pissed.
Yeah. Same as it would be
They had
a lot.
they had that house the way they wanted it to, and you're in here banging the cabinets off the walls. They're fucking mad about it. So, and I think, I do believe that sometimes like objects, say like a car that some old man loved and poured his heart and soul into, and he put it in his will that his grandson got it. You know what I mean? And then his grandson gets this car, and I believe that if he has that type of emotion put in that car and that much love and heart and soul, that when he gives it to his son, he may still be attached to that car. It's like it's all emotion, man. It's just it's all emotion. If you came in here and knocked down my living room wall, I'd be fucking pissed.
Warranted as well, admittedly.
Yeah. So
you think that as a whole, spirits stay due to an emotional connection, and because of that, is there a way? Because like we said, there is not everyone stays as a spirit in the realm where we're in touch with them.
Right.
Because of that, is there a way to kind of pass these spirits that are still lurking about in a realm where we are able to be in touch with them? Is there a way to pass them on? kind of another realm where we're not necessarily.
I don't know that they necessarily pass into another realm. They may or they may not.
What's your kind of beliefs on that?
Sometimes I believe that when you've calmed a sort of restless spirit, I do believe that they move on. I've been in situations where it was like a house renovation or something, and then you get to a certain point with the spirit that, you make the homeowner, I love this house. I will protect this house. I know this was your house, but now it's mine. And I love it just as much as you did. And I'm going to protect it with everything in me, and I think that type of intent will often calm an angry spirit that's mad that you're tearing their house up, doing whatever you're doing. I think sometimes they move on. I think sometimes you're just settling that spirit and you cohabitate. I think there's a lot of cohabitation type thing, because I have had instances where people have had that thing happen and it calms down, and then like a month later they're calling me and they're like, oh, Bobby's opening the kitchen cabinets again, and just tell Bobby to chill the fuck out. He just wants you to know he's still there. And once you acknowledge them, because sometimes that's all it is. They just want acknowledgement. They're mad that nobody knows they're there. Nobody's paying them any fucking attention. You know what I mean? So when you're like, okay, Bobby, you can quit opening the cabinets now. I know you're still here. And sometimes it's that simple. But it depends on the spirit in every situation. It depends on the spirit, because no two investigations I've ever been on have worked out the same way when it was an active investigation.
In regards then to once again, I think, was you here for the entire podcast last time? I'm pretty sure you were, more or less.
No, I wasn't, but I watched the first episode and listened to the first episode and half of the second one last night when I was at work. I had it in my earbuds listening to it.
So in terms of the last we dubbed it horror stories one, that Ben and I did. I shared a story, and my dad will vouch for me as well. That when I was younger, my mum, dad, and I lived it with my granddad in his old house. My mum and granddad had gone out for the evening, sat at home with my dad. I assume he knows what I'm about to say, and I was sat there. From my knowledge of the story to what he's told me, I was sat there talking to, having a rabbit in a way, having a conversation. And feel free to interrupt me if I get this wrong, Dad. And he asked who I was talking to, and I said Nanny. Now I had never seen a picture of my nan. My nan had passed multiple years before I was born. I had never met her, never seen a picture of her, and then proceeded to explain where she was and what she was doing in pretty excruciating detail. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Dad.
Well, I just remember we were sitting there and you were just like playing with your toys. You was just a toddler, and I was sitting there listening to you, sitting on a chair, probably having a beer at the time, and I could hear you rabbiting away. And I said, "Who are you talking to?" And you said, "Nammy." I thought, "Oh fuck." And I'm like looking around the room, and obviously I can't see nothing. And then we proceeded to read a book. I think either that night or another night. I think there's another night. And there was a picture, like a cartoon picture, of a lady with glasses on. And you pointed it and you went, Nanny. And yet you had never seen a photograph of my mum. I think at the time I felt it was my mum you felt that you'd seen or was talking to. And it sort of like spooked me out a little bit, I've got to say. And you just said, yeah, Nanny. Yeah, I'd never shown you a picture of my mum. My mum used to always wear glasses, big glasses. But they do say that children can see things that adults can't.
And that was what I was going to link to, is the link between children, animals, and the spirit world is supposedly a lot stronger than that of a functioning adult. Do you have? Why do you believe?
I believe part of it is that at a certain age, like when somebody pops your cherry about Santa Claus, you start to develop that disbelief in everything type thing. So up until a certain age, a child has a sort of innocence, and I guess it's like almost like having your third eye open, you know. They are more, I don't want to say gullible because naive. It's a naivety thing, I think. That's the word I was looking for. I think they're more naive and they're more accepting of things that you and I would see it and be like, "That's the fucking wind," and they're like, "Oh, it's my hand," you know. It's
Ben and I sort of theorized about it last week that perhaps as you grow older, you begin to experience more stress, more kind of negative.
Everything just
Things in
becomes a bit more
general.
clouded.
Yeah, exactly.
Your
And
mind
it's-
becomes a lot more busy, I suppose.
and I can safely say that as I have grown as a person from a younger age to now, I have to go through a lot more in terms of the real world, in terms of like the world that we live in type thing, every day compared to what I had to go through 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And do you think that has a sort of effect on it? Do you think that because of like, work, school, things like that, it will potentially cloud your brain and you don't necessarily think back to like what else might be happening around you?
Absolutely. And I also think that people that are more artistic, I'm an artist. I know you're an artist. Um, I think people that have more of an imagination are also more susceptible to things like that.
I think that's due to having potentially more of an open mind.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think it depends on the open-mindedness. Animals, I don't know. I know my cat stares at the ceiling sometimes, and I'm like, you know, you know, um, I think that animals are just innocent, and really, I think all of it, and it boils down to innocence, especially with kids. Animals, nobody loves you like your fucking dog loves you. Cats are assholes, but they love you too. It's just they're not clouded with daily life and stress, like you said. So they don't have that influence of the fucking world weighing down on them, or that thing in the back of their head because somebody was like, "That's bullshit. You don't need to believe in that." The
Yeah,
dog
yeah.
doesn't care. 3-year-olds don't care. They're gonna believe what they want to believe because they're fucking 3. So
100%. 100%. Sorry.
yeah,
What?
I said you made it up.
Yeah. Made it up because I knew it'd fucking freak you out, mate.
Yeah,
That's why.
scared the shit out of me, man.
It is really interesting to think, like, because obviously you yourself are open to the beliefs of it and things like that. And as a whole, you think that because of your openness to the kind of scenarios and situations, do you think you are more susceptible to it, or do you think your susceptibility is because of perhaps being more in touch with yourself and more in touch with your spiritual side?
I don't think it really has to do with my spiritual side. I think my spiritual side grounds me in it a little better because I do have that power boost, I guess is the way I want to say it. But no, curiosity was the start of it. And I'm imaginative and I'm creative, being an artist. I just think that I look at the world like I look at my love life type. Um, Even before like LGBT thing was a thing, right? I always just believed I was gonna love who I was gonna love. What it is, what it is, and I'm kind of like that about. I'm open minded to everything. I try to be as open minded as possible. So I
Yeah.
think that's a part of the reason that I'm sensitive too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, having an open mind is powerful than being that those who follows.
Like,
mean?
I don't care if I weigh 100 pounds or 300 pounds, I still love myself. I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about me. So it's all in your mentality too, I believe.
Yeah.
I've got a question. Sorry, I've got a question if I could ask one.
Go ahead, Daddy.
It's probably a very, very bizarre question, but would you say, and there's a reason for this question, would you say angels are part of the ghost world, maybe.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, there's a reason for this. I was in the garden one night, a couple of 3 years ago, and I sat there with my camera.
Sorry,
And
for
some
anyone that isn't English, a couple of 3 years ago can mean any length of time,
Right,
not necessarily 2 or 3.
Charlie. But no, about 3 years ago, I suppose, 4 years ago, maybe. I just sat in the garden with my camera phone, an old one, and I just kept sitting there, kept pressing the button. And when I went through the photographs at the end, when I stopped doing it, there was like a white, I don't know, like a white spot in the far background. Then it got closer, then it got closer. About 3 shots. And on the third shot, it was like an angel flew across the screen. And the reason I say it's an angel, Mel, my partner, she's got the photograph somewhere. And it was like a wing, and then like a dress, and then like a shoulder, but you didn't see no head or no legs or anything like that. I just wondered if that was part of the paranormal world.
Of course it is.
I actually
Of course
think I
it is.
remember you showing me that. I remember that being, must have had fucking dozens of
You know,
orbs and that.
Still got some of them.
anybody that is like a Bible beater, like around here, they're gonna immediately debunk that, right? But if you read in the Bible, the Holy Spirit is mentioned 1,000 times, like 1,000 times, and I believe that the Holy Spirit and like angels are connected. I can remember being in church and them having a really involved session. The church I went to was very much on music, so they would just go off the cuff and just impromptu music, and it was like a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? And I can remember seeing little kids look in the ceiling and like pointing at stuff. And so I absolutely believe that angels are a part of that. I believe,
Yeah.
it's I think somebody at some point in time in history drew a line, and if it was angel, it was good, and if it was spirit, it was bad, and nobody wanted to believe anything different.
Mel just sent me the photograph through, but I don't know how to get it onto the thing.
You
But
want to send it to me?
yeah,
Oh, I wouldn't try that. We'll be here for another half hour, won't we?
he knows how to send it to me. Send it to me on Facebook or in this Discord chat, and we can.
all right. No worries, I'll sort it out later.
Well, whilst that's going on, I believe we have a few more Facebook posts.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
I believe we do.
We've gone
Yes.
off on
So
an hour-long tangent.
yes. So whilst that's coming through, do you want to talk about some of the other ones that are in there?
There's another one of a ball getting kicked. It was a whole different residence.
I believe I have
Okay.
that one open. Balls roll 8/22/14. Sorry,
Yeah.
American dates are weird to me. Is that the one?
August the 22nd, I think so. Yes.
Yes. Oh.
Look, I haven't even put any more in there because I got on a rant.
Fuck, that was louder than I thought it would be.
Anybody here with me right
Sorry.
now?
Just because I think I assume it's relevant. The noise in the background that
Bird box.
is that what that is?
Mhm.
Do we need?
Sounds like Rick.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like static. We need
Yeah.
to listen to that carefully. Is that gonna make it?
No,
Oh,
you can
okay.
mute that. The ball gets hit.
Where's the lady I was talking to earlier? Is she still here?
At one point, that's a little bit creepy. Do you not have that when things like that happen? Do you not have that innate sort of creepiness in you, or are you kind of over that by now?
No, you get excited about it. You're like, fuck, there it
Fair
is.
enough.
Is there a reason
excited.
that balls are used? Is it just because they're easy to move?
Yeah, they're easy to move, and generally somebody has recounted thinking that there's a child in the house.
The balls are seen as playful and a toy type.
Because no matter if that kid was a more recent passing or a child from the 1900s, they know what a ball is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you seen them interact with objects that aren't balls?
Just people, really.
Right.
And in the same tone, when you're dealing with children, sometimes a more malicious being, I guess, will present themselves to a child as a child because it is a familiar to open that.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you a baseline of this could potentially be a child, or maybe we're not dealing with a child. So it's kind of, you're more apt to get a response from a child with something that's childlike as opposed to something that's not childlike.
Is there?
And someone's questioned in the chat, what would you use for an adult then? Would you use things that, be it people? So, say someone knew who had passed, say it was their grandma or something. Would you use something that they knew was close to their grandma, or would you just sort of trial and error a few things?
It depends on like the situation. Like if you're in someone's house and they believe it was like their mother she passed in the back bedroom, you're obviously going to go to said bedroom. But generally people don't have like objects in their house that they believe, even though it could possibly be what the person's attached to, that person doesn't necessarily believe that's what grandma's attached to. So just to kind of cut corners, you would bring that adult in the room while you're doing, you know what I mean, when you've got the family, or as opposed to when the family's not in there. That makes it a little bit different. But usually most people are up to it, especially when they think that it's a past loved one, to sit in on it because they're looking for validation as much as anybody, that they're not crazy. So you generally just use the person and not object.
Oh, okay.
How would you deduce who or what the spirit is and what they want necessarily? Was there kind of like a, when you went into each investigation, was there kind of a plan behind it? Was there kind of, you sort of said, this is who we think it is, let's try and see if it is them. If it's not them, how do we go from there? How would you go about doing that?
Any type of death or home ownership or anything like that is public record here. So I can go to the courthouse and get all the information on the house next door to me, who owned it, who died there, the full history. So you always do that type of background work, I guess, just to debunk things. Or there's been instances where we would take turns doing investigations, and not investigations, but like the investigative work of it. That way, if, Eddie Bumfuck died in that house, I'm the only one that knows it was Eddie Bumfuck, and I don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
I'll just say that there was a person that passed away in the house. And then when you're doing EVP recordings, if somebody asks your name and you get fucking Eddie, then you were validated. So you don't make deaths common knowledge to the entire group, because then you're kind of seeding that idea in people's heads, and you don't want.
They hear what they want to.
Yeah, or Bill. It fucking probably said Eddie, and Bill thought it was Bill. But it's always fucking Bill. But yeah, whoever did the research and found any type of death or name attached with that residence, we kept it to ourselves That way, if the name came out in the investigation on a EVP or what have you, spirit box, REM part, that way you weren't polluting results
That makes
with
sense.
information.
So, as someone who obviously has friends who does it regularly and stuff, you've obviously had a bad experience yourself, hence quitting. Have you seen that happen to other people? Have you seen other people have experiences that have made them turn around and say, fuck this,
Absolutely. Candy quit the same day I did.
because of the same reason?
Yeah, same house.
And have you seen people come away almost traumatized because of it? You've seen people come away that have been incredibly touched in a negative way because of it.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill has been doing this for years. And to the point that he's obsessed with it. And instead of obsession, I believe it's become an addiction.
Yeah.
He's the only person I know that has been bitten like 7 times by brown recluse spiders. Every time we go to, we went to Bobby Mackey's. It's a really hot place here. He got bit by a brown recluse spider in Bobby Mackey's. He got bit when he went to the Bell Witch Cave. I think he's got himself too open to it. When you look at Bill's on textbook healthy, but when you look at him, he looks like he's got cancer.
Right.
And I think it's just, he's literally made himself sick with it. And I just think it.
So you think having too many negative experiences can negatively impact your general health?
Oh, absolutely.
The same sort of way as it can have a direct impact on your mental health and thus forth your
Absolutely.
physical health.
You know, when you're stressed consistently every day, all day, and you're run down, it's the same thing when you've got something that's latched onto you, or you're putting yourself in that situation where it's consistently draining your energy 3 times a week. And then you go home with said footage of 3 hours on 6 different devices that you have to watch through. So you're putting yourself that many hours rewatching all this, and just I think I literally think that he's making himself sick over it. He's still a dickhead, but I think he's making himself sick over it.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. It's easy to obsess over passionate about. And on a personal level, I can kind of relate in a different sense because it's almost what I do with streaming and videos and things like that. So I do get the idea of working yourself to a point where it does make you ill. It's about making a conscious effort to take a step back at point.
I just think sometimes I think he's in it for the wrong reason.
What do you think?
I think that he's trying to be Zach Baggins, Ghost Adventures. I think that's what he's in it for. And I think it goes back to the intent thing that I said. It's bad intent. Most of us went into it as, I want to help this person not feel crazy because I don't feel crazy anymore, but I just think he's done so much of it and listened to so many hours of it. And when he's not doing that, and I get what you're saying about the obsession thing. You work super hard, and I'm super proud of how much you've blown up. I don't know how to word this right. It's beyond obsession. Like, yeah. It's literally an addiction with him.
It's easy for something that you're passionate about, even if you're passionate about it in the wrong way, for it to become obsessive and addictive, and for it to become something that you make your life, even if it doesn't necessarily need to become your life.
It's a fine line.
Yeah,
you have to take a break from everything. You have to.
Yeah. At some point, you have to switch off and say, does he work a normal job as well as? So he has dedicated his life to it. That's crazy.
Yeah, but he gets a government check because he doesn't want to work.
Right.
Also,
Okay.
so like
Inadvertently
there's a
paid
fine
for
line with that
it.
too.
So you
He's
think
also
because of
fucking
that,
lazy, but
he's had negative impacts due to everything that he's had to see and go through? Do you think that he's perhaps turned round and said, I want it to kind of impact me in a way that changes me as a person? Because there are things that people go through and they're like, I want this to fucking change me. Whether that's change me for the better or change me for the worse is irrelevant, but they want it to change them. I think that was
I,
it.
yeah. He's the one that'll go in and start fucking antagonizing spirits.
Just for a kick.
Just for a kick, yeah. So yeah, I think you're 100% correct.
I don't know. And
Mhm.
I obviously from what you said, you don't agree with that.
No, I don't.
And do you see, as someone who's had very close experiences with it, you see spirits as conscious beings as well, and they don't deserve to be antagonized as much as a
Yeah.
person would.
I mean, nobody wants to be treated like shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I went through years of bullying before bullying was like a thing. If you got upset about it when I was a kid, you were a pussy. It's just how
Yeah.
it is.
No one
And,
wants to be the one on the.
so because I can be a motherfucker, obviously, but unless it's warranted or somebody or something comes at me crossways, I go at everybody with the same attitude. Do I trust people or entities immediately? No. But I do put positivity out there before I put any type of negativity. And I think it works with people and spirits because you get back what you put out.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, so I just look at them as people.
Yeah. Well, at some point, theoretically, they weren't they?
Right.
And obviously,
And that's,
their engagement and interaction with you is going to be based off of that.
yeah.
And
if they're
go
going
on.
to the point of making all this noise and doing whatever to get attention, then giving it to them, I'm not going to give it to them negatively. They're looking for validation as much as I am. Bye, Dad.
Probably smart. Have you ever gone into a situation? Because obviously there are times in regards with people where you could go in, be perfectly open-minded, be perfectly polite to them, and get a negative response regardless, just because arsehole. Has that happened with a spirit, or are spirits very much more fair-minded per se?
I mean, some of them are just pissed off when you get there.
Yeah.
We had a guy in Clay, Kentucky that decided he was like a freelance fucking paranormal person. So he was going to all these lengths to try to make some kind of contact because he was curious. I mean, curiosity isn't a bad thing, but he was getting obsessed with it. And he was the one that the balls were rolling in his house.
Right.
And in that one video, you see me and Trent walk out of one room, and then that's when the orb goes up the wall.
Yeah.
It was like when we would walk out of those rooms, it was like a train following us. He'd invited so much into his house. So he had a little bit of both. He had some malicious, he had some kid spirits. He was like collecting a congregation in that house. So there it was literally you went from sweet to nasty in that house.
And have you seen malicious spirits take effect in the real world to a point where it's dangerous for people to be near them? I think in regards to this type of thing, it has a very negative connotation because of things like horror films and films where spirits can take on a malicious intent and then subsequently take hold of a person or a being and say, hey, look, fuck you, we're going to possess you. Have you... obviously, that stuff is never sort of really covered in documentaries and stuff. It's very much more based on the premise of like a horror film. Is that something that you've seen happen particularly?
The last house I was in.
And so you would have considered that dangerous for the living?
Absolutely.
Right.
If I had a way to contact the archdiocese, I would have called them. Like it was that bad. And it was
Do you think there was a reason behind that spirit being that malicious to the point of danger to the real world, the living world?
honestly, I think that the people of that house weren't very good parents to that child.
Right.
And I think that when that kid wanted attention, they were real quick to tell her to fuck off and go play. And I think that she found something else to play with, and it gave her more attention than mom and daddy. So I really think that's where the main issue came in that situation.
Do you think the spirit was, in a way, protective of the girl,
No,
or using the girl as a kind of outlet, as an escape, as a way to kind of almost manifest itself?
absolutely. Because she was like, even when you talk to her in the house with the lights on, that was the creepiest fucking kid I've ever seen in my life. We came in and it was like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. And then she went and sat on her mom's lap and just the whole time, like, stared me down like I was the fucking devil the whole time. But when we first got there, she was all happy and, oh my God, I'm going to play with my dolls. And then when daddy told her to calm down and sit down, it was like somebody flipped a switch in that kid. It was scary. It was scary. I was legitimately scared.
So, in regards to spirits themselves, it's obvious that you've seen them kind of manifest themselves through movement of balls and through equipment and stuff. Have you ever seen it happen in different ways? More, and I'm gonna use a kind of more cliche term of like a haunting here, of things like cupboard doors opening themselves, or even like a visual manifestation of a spirit that looks
Yeah.
like a person. You've seen that yourself.
I've seen doors move, lights flicker, just subtle things. I've seen silhouettes. I've never seen a person, but I have seen silhouettes. Um, and it's so hard to catch that on video because I believe that no matter where you're at, I believe we always have spirits watching us of some sort, whether they interact with us or not, they're everywhere, right? Okay. So spirits are smarter than to stand in front of a camera when you see you setting a camera up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If they don't want to be seen, they won't be seen.
Yeah. I mean, I've been sat in a living room doing EVP work, and you can look off and see a silhouette, like, head, shoulders type of silhouette in the hallway. They don't ever come near the cameras, but I've never seen like detail in a face. Now, like that picture that you put into the beers and bullshit chat.
What do you think what was your professional opinion on that picture?
That was a very
because if I give you some context behind that picture, and I say I was at an Air Force base in the UK, and 70 years prior, around World War II time, there was paratroopers stationed there, right?
Yeah.
And that what it was wearing, if you look at that picture very carefully, you can kind of see the basic outline of a face. You can see kind of the indentations of the eyes, and then what looks like some variation of a maroon beret or maroon headwear, and like almost like an olive suit type thing, right? Now, paratroopers, by definition, wear a maroon beret, like that same kind of like darky red purple.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was a dress occasion, they would be wearing an olive or a dark green suit to dress for accordingly for a military perspective. And it very much fit the type of description that you would have gotten from someone who was a paratrooper 70 years prior. Now, do you think that was... Now, I didn't actually know that, and when I took that photo, I spoke to the officers, and I said, are there paratroopers on site here? And they said no. And I was like, have there ever been? And they was like, I don't know, let's look into it. And they looked, there was a little sort of backlog into the history and stuff, and it turns out that paratroopers have been very prominent there in the 40s, around World War II time. And so I kind of took that and I kind of ran with that idea, and I was like, well, this is when you think about it, would make sense for a spirit or the more commonly used phrase of ghost of a paratrooper to potentially show up in that scenario. What are your thoughts on that as a whole?
I mean, that's exactly what I thought it was. I think it's a soldier of some type. It could be. What I really think is he was in some type of situation. I'm sure they probably had like hospital on base, during that time, some type of medic, some type of something. And it could be that he passed away there and he's just to those grounds. I don't know.
Because
That's a very
from
clear
a
image.
logical, like, living
I had-
world perspective, there is no fucking reason that base at the time and now, I think it's actually been shut down now. At the time was the headquarters of the RAF police. And there would have been not everyone in the RAF, the UK Air Force wears a blue beret, right? And it would be the difference in the two colors is incredible it's incredibly easy to kind of differentiate between. There is no reason that something that clear would have shown up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I had to really zoom in because at first I thought it was a Matrix thing. I really thought it was a Matrix thing because the skin was so fair and you're so fair complected.
Yeah.
I thought, you know what a photo matrix is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought it was at first until I zoomed in and I saw the clear hat and like the lapel things.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's totally
that's crazy, isn't it? Because in terms of like even looking at like reflections and the potential of reflections, every room in that building was painted like a plain beige or a plain white. It was a military base, so it's very military. Everything was uniform throughout, very plain colors. There was nothing outside of sort of the same type of color as Ben's room. That was all it was all the way through. There was nothing that would have caused that. And I know for a fact there was 2 people in the time sat in that room. Me and a young lad that I was teaching at the time. And we were both in civvies. We were both wearing I can't remember what he was wearing. I remember I was wearing a black t-shirt and probably jogging bottoms at the time. Can't remember what he was wearing, but there was nothing I wouldn't have saved it if I didn't think it was plausible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I remember actually I remember taking that photo, typing out the message, and as I typed it out, I went, "What the fuck is that?" And I looked behind me and went, "Wait, what? There's nothing there." You know what I mean? And I sent that photo, and the recipient of that photo turned around and said, "Who the fuck was that stood behind you?" You know, and that night I did not sleep. I mean, that was downstairs, and I was sleeping upstairs in a communal room as well. There's maybe 10 or 15 of us in the same sort of hall. I just remember laying there thinking, what the actual fuck? Because that base, and I don't know if it's just the general vibe that you get from like UK military bases or whatever, was incredibly bizarre. It was a very dark, like, street going right down the middle, with very kind of older style street lamps, and because it was quite an old base. And I just remember this particular light outside of the building that was very much sort of in line with where that photo was. And maybe this was me at the time looking into it too much. That light always used to flicker. And I don't know if that has any relevance, if maybe that was just that light being acting up because it was potentially old. But obviously, it is a military base. There was a lot of funds invested into it to keep it up to scratch, to keep it functioning, especially as a headquarters base for the military police. But that light all night would flicker. You know what I mean? And it was maybe within about 10 meters of where that photo was taken.
It's a possibility. I mean, we've went into heavily not infested, ghost heavy situations. And we put fresh batteries in everything before every investigation, whether they're brand new or not, they every time. And you'd have flashlights go dead and EMFs go dead, and just, because they suck energy from whatever they can. So that is a legitimate reason for a light to flicker like that.
Yeah.
Why would they suck the energy out of stuff? Is it to try and give them more power, maybe more?
Yeah, it's because it's believed that they are very low energy and use the energy around them. So they're going to use, I mean, that's raw energy. You know what I mean? So they can use people, but obviously a power outlet is going to be a non-interrupted flow of energy. So, they can absolutely to manifest themselves as clearly or to move an object. Obviously, if you're purely energy, it takes a lot of energy to solidify something enough to move something. You know what I mean? So they have to draw that energy somewhere. And that a light flickering like that, especially in the same spot all the time, I would have to check the wiring on it before I said, yes, that's what it is. But it could be,
You've seen the photo I'm talking about, haven't you, Dad?
No, I've not seen it. You sent it to me, and also Mel was sent you the angel picture on your WhatsApp. So if you
Yes.
show Heather that.
I'll send it to you in. Want it in this Discord or the other Discord channel? Whatever works best for you, mate.
I don't mind, mate. Whatever.
However, the picture that my dad is talking about is currently in full. There. Dad. Photo that. Do you want me to send it to Mel, Dad?
Yeah, please. Or send it to my WhatsApp, whatever.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I haven't fucking put any contact on the phone yet.
Send it to Mel. Send it to Mel.
Yeah, this is the picture that I'm talking about. Look in the window when you see that picture. So in regards to the particular photo I'm talking about, Heather, I a few months later was you might have heard this part in the podcast last week, was stood in my kitchen. Now the layout of my house is that the kitchen is at the back of the building. I was stood there talking to a friend of mine, and I was stood at the back door having a cigarette out the back door, and I had this picture up, and I was showing him the picture, and we was talking about it. It was on this sort of topic, and we was talking about it, and I pulled up the picture, and I started telling him about the story of the picture. And as I was telling him about the story of the picture, it was, and for context, like, in terms of debunking and stuff like that, it was a very wind-free night. I was stood literally out the back door with the back door pulled incredibly tight against me. So it was, even if there was any wind, there wouldn't have been a lot come through. And now sort of adjacent to me across the other side of the room is the door into the kitchen from the hallway. And hanging on the back of one of the cupboards next to that door is a calendar. It's always there, and it had like a stick-on hook type thing. Now the stick-on hooks are quite strong. They're not like they're just going to fall off of their own accord unless maybe you started fucking yanking at it or squirting it with water to loosen off the glue or whatever. And now this calendar had been up for months. Do you know what I mean? And as I started talking about this picture, the calendar and the hook both came off of the wall. The calendar sort of fell to the floor, maybe about a meter or two away from where it was hanging, and the hook went in the other direction. There was no thinking about it, and I mean, I shit myself at that point. I had a fucking fag in my mouth, and I jumped back in, slammed the door, and went, "What the fuck?" like that. It took me a second to kind of compose myself, and I stood back up and was like, "What the fuck just happened?" I went back to the door, like threw the fag out, and went, "What was that, bro?" Turned around, realised that the calendar had been it looked like it had been yanked. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't like it had one of the sort of double-sided tape stick-on type things on the back. It wasn't like it had just kind of peeled off. It was like that actual double-sided tape had been ripped in half. They're kind of padded. It was almost like that. It had been ripped down the middle.
Pull those to get them off anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like it had been yanked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do you think that it was that particular spirit, or do you think it was a spirit in the house that was... because obviously you was there when I was talking last week or earlier this week in regards to the front room, just giving that off that weird kind of someone is there vibe.
Yeah.
Do you think it was that maybe asking for attention because I was giving
Possible.
attention to another spirit? Is there any sort of particular reason behind that?
It's a good possibility. I mean, like, it could be as simple as you're acknowledging him and not me.
Yeah.
You know, it could be that simple. Without physically being there, it's kind of hard. It's hard to say because sometimes I can get like a vibe. You know what I mean? But albeit the spirit you were talking about or the one that you say is in the front, is it like your front room or
Living
something?
room, yeah. That.
Yeah. It could be either or. It could simply be like, yes, I'm here, whap. Or it could be out of jealousy. You know, it could be one of the two. There's no set rules. I wish there were, but there's no set rules for things like that, you know.
So, Dad, in regards to the living room here, obviously you lived there for however long, alongside us, and you knew. Would you have said that the kind of vibe and the kind of energy that you get in the living room was also weird? I've always only ever been able to explain it as someone else. It feels like there's someone in there with you. You know what I mean? It kind of gives you that
always
weird
did get that feeling there was something there.
Yeah.
You mean the room out the back?
Yeah, the living room out the back. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done. Yeah, I don't know. There was always a feeling about that house. You know, I mean, it's like a bit like Mel's house. Just changing for a minute. When I first started seeing Mel, there was a bang in the kitchen. Gone in the kitchen, there's a mobile phone on the floor, but it was in the centre of the breakfast bar.
Yeah.
And then there's been things that have been thrown, hasn't there, around your house, and there's just always that sense that you're being watched. Like
sense of another being.
I've got a clown, a ceramic clown that my mum made. The legs got broken off it, or the feet got broken off it. It's been moved. One time I lost it and couldn't find it, probably because I put it somewhere, pissed. But you know, but it's just weird things like that. You know, just strange things have happened around here. And when her ex-husband was around here one day, he was over by the microwave and something flew at him. A load of jugs flew at him. And it's just all weird things that have happened here. But yeah, I did always, same as yours, your place. There was always like a sense of something there, something.
There's always been something about that front room, hasn't it? It's always been an incredibly cold room. It's always been a room,
cold room. Yeah,
where
something.
It always feels like there's someone else in there with you, doesn't it? Even if you're there completely alone, there's no one else in the house. It always feels like you have company in that room. It's a bizarre feeling you can't shake.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the worst thing is that your mum has all the lights off, so it makes it even more spooky.
Yeah, she fucking likes to live in darkness, doesn't she? So it doesn't help.
Yeah.
But is there any sort of particular reason for that? Because opposite the entrance to our living room is the bathroom, and as you go in the door to the bathroom, there's a mirror directly in front of you, like a big sort of more or less full wall mirror. And it looks, if you're stood in the door to the bathroom, it looks, the reflection is the door to the living room. Right. And it gives you this kind of really weird fucking vibe. Like, you kind of look in the mirror and you always expect there to be someone else behind you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, not only that, but like you actually sit in that room on your own at whatever time of the day. It doesn't matter if it's nighttime, if you're just bugging because it's dark. It doesn't matter if it's daytime. It's always cold, and it always feels like there's someone else in there with you. You know what I mean? Is there any particular reason for that?
Have you ever researched the history of that house? Like, I don't
think there's anything, but do you know of anything weird about this house? I think it's relatively modern. It's not like it's an old build.
Isn't there? There could be, you know, what was in the fields once. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could have legitimately, it could be buried on someone's grave. Like, you just never know.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Yeah, I was going to say,
300
probably
years ago.
all them years ago, you think we wasn't, West Kingsdown's not far from London, that people could have been buried there from the Black Death, the plague.
That's true.
You understand what I'm saying? So,
I see, I forget about that aspect because I'm not, you know, because I'm American.
yeah.
But there's obviously a lot that could potentially be taken into account with it. Like, obviously for you, it's going to be hard to gauge in regards to whether there is something here or not, because you can't get that physical feeling yourself.
I know you. What Lewis's family had that house before you?
Yeah, Lewis owned the house before us.
Okay, and then but they didn't build that house.
They didn't know. It's very rare in the UK to have someone build a house.
Oh, okay.
It's then primarily built along the lines
Right.
of like councils
Right.
building.
You know, it could be as simple as, you know, somebody died there, like your dad said, it's built on top of someone's grave. You'd really have to look at the records on that house. I don't know how your public records.
I don't know if there's a way to go about that in the UK. It might be something I'll look into in future, just out of interest more.
I think I'll have to look into it.
It's never felt like particularly malicious. It just more feels like you're constantly being watched.
Yeah.
It feels more like you're constant. And it doesn't take long to be in there to experience that either. Like, you walk in there, you know what I mean? Or you don't even need to be in the room. Just walking past the room kind of gives you that, "Ooh, fuck." Do you know
like
what
one
I
of
mean?
those rooms you keep the door closed to.
Literally, if my mum ever goes away for an extended period of time, I shut the fucking door to that room and don't go in there. Even during the day, I don't go in there.
Or you ask me to stay.
I don't ask you to stay, you bitch.
No.
But like,
ask me, do you remember when you thought you see something out the front that night when you come round? And I think
yeah, you're fucking. It's weird around your place, but the weird thing is your place is like not somewhere you would associate with. Obviously, some places give off vibes more than other places. I.e., you know, if you go to a secluded house in the middle of buttfuck nowhere, it generally has that kind of, "Oh fuck, this feels a bit weird" type thing anyway. But like, ultimately, you're in an incredibly built-up area. You're in a very busy town. It does, you know, and that was at what, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? I think you and I were fucking pissed, weren't we?
I was going to take you home, and you said there's something over there, and I said no, there's no one there.
Yeah.
And then I just started flashing the camera about, did like my phone about, taking photographs, and in that photograph there was a body by. Do you remember whatever it was? There's something standing by the car. Do you remember? And then I showed Mel, and yet there was nobody there. You know, there was nobody there, and you were saying there's something over there. And I took.
Did Mel live there before you lived there with her?
Oh, can I put Mel on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on, then. You got to stand there and hold it up to you. So.
Go on then.
My
Hi,
house
Mel.
is built on. Hiya, all right. My house is built on what they called a monk's orchard. The house that I actually live in now was owned by a farmer, and he had cultivated land, and he sold this land to the council. But previously, I mean, we've actually got a road just up the road called Monk's Orchard, and they used to have tunnels going underneath all the grounds. And you come into my house, and there's certain places it goes freezing cold. You could have the heating on full blast, and Charlie will actually verify this. You can come into my house and it'll be really, really hot, and you go to places and it is freezing cold. And I can't understand it. I can't understand why we're living here. We've had James sent the picture of the angel that's coming across. We've had lots of faces, images, effigies, everything around. I've had one on my wall of an effigy, and it was someone that was doing work in this house, and he passed away, and then his effigy was left on one of my cabinets.
That's cool. That's super cool.
Honestly, it is so weird, this house. There's a certain place in my house, you go there and you literally go freezing cold. You know that, don't you, Charlie?
Do you know the guy's name?
So Tony was the one that passed away. Unfortunately, he hung himself. in the middle of doing up my kitchen.
Oh my! Holy crap!
I know. And his effigy has been left on one of the, well, I will. It was a wall that we had all the kids writing their names, their heights, and everything like this. And I've got to pull this back, but that's what's been left. See what you will with it, but it just literally, over time, everything peeled away and it left an effigy of Tony.
Wow, that's cool.
About the
He's
ghost at the back.
like heavily connected to that house. Then does he ever?
Yeah.
Does it ever mess with you personally, or is it just there?
No, it's just like he's always trying to say to me, "I'm sorry, I've left. Like, you know, I've left stuff that I should have carried on for." And I'm like, "It's okay, that's cool."
Yeah, as long as you're cool with it, you're not going to have any problems with it.
Oh
you know?
no, I
That's
never
so
had any
cool,
problems.
man.
I
wanna come
just
to your
have
house.
problems. And a
I
particular
want to come
area
meet
of my
Tony.
house where Charlie knows, when you get to the top of my stairs, Charlie, where the loft is, and everyone, all my children, everyone just goes stone cold, and we just don't like
It is an
that
incredibly
area.
bizarre experience because it's not like a draft or anything, is it?
No,
It's
you just go
like
cold.
it's just like a weird spot where you get there and you're just like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
'Cause
just
I
go
actually think I
super
remember
cold.
pointing it out one of the first times that I went upstairs in your house, and I went
Yeah.
upstairs with my dad. Like, cool, fucking hell, it's cold in this part, isn't it?
Yeah, and the rest of the house was really hot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you get to this spot
Hmm.
underneath the loft, and it is stone cold.
I'm always
the
in your
time.
loft as well.
But it's not like a draft cold either, because you feel a draft cold. Do you know what I mean? You can
No,
kind
no,
of
you
feel
don't
like
feel-
that almost breeze.
No, exactly, Charlie. You don't feel that. You just go cold.
Yeah.
And it's
What-
like someone is trying to walk through you. That's the only way I can describe it, because you get to this point at the top of my landing,
Mm-hmm.
and when you get there, it's like they go through you, and you just go stone cold.
Wow.
And we don't know what it is.
Is there a particular reason that that might happen, Heather? Is there a particular reason that there would be a I mean, hot spot is the wrong word, but like a cold spot in a house per se?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's obviously an entity. Now this is the fine line. If Tony was like, God, I've gone and fucked these people's house up. I killed myself in the kitchen. I'm gonna hang around. I'm so sorry. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's obviously not any type. There's not any type of malice to that.
Oh no, not him.
But somebody with that type of intention toward the house, or the people that own said house.
It was before Tony. It was before Tony. It's always been in here.
Well, the point, what I'm getting to is there may have been something else there that did have some type of ill intention, or wasn't not. I don't want to say ill intention because that makes it sound evil, but that wasn't the best sort of spirit. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Tony may be simply there protecting you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You sometimes feel something pushing on you, don't you? If I'm not there.
When I go to bed some nights, I mean, I'm a Christian, right?
Yeah.
And I go to bed some nights and I lay there. If James is working nights or he's not with me, I feel someone behind me, and it's not a nice, comforting.
Yeah.
And I get, like, the only way that I can put it is like temporary paralysis.
Yeah.
I am literally still, I can't shout, I can't do anything, I can't move, and I can feel this entity upon me. And I'm in my head, I'm just saying, for the blood of Jesus, please protect me, cover me with the blood of Jesus. I command you to go, leave me alone, wherever you are, just leave me alone. Because that is how I feel, because it's not a nice, it's an evil thing
Yeah.
that is in my bed with me.
Yeah.
And that is what I say to James. I say, I know it's not you, because
When
it's
you
not
pray,
a comforting thing.
when you pray in your head, does it alleviate
Yeah,
any
it
of it?
goes. It goes.
It does. Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
it goes.
Oh
And
wow,
it scares
that's
me.
heavy.
I know
That's heavy,
it is.
man.
It scares me. And
Wow.
I've been that paralyzed that I'm trying to fit and lash out and everything, and I can't. And I'm
Yeah.
crying and I'm sobbing, and then I come out of it, and my face is totally saturated with tears.
Do you ever have you ever tried blessing your room before you go to bed?
Yeah, I've tried that. I've
Have you?
actually had my pastor come round and bless every room.
No, I mean, I not that type of blessing. I mean, just obviously you're a religious person. Do you pray when you're in that room before you go to sleep?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Wow. That's heavy.
And it just don't leave me alone.
Hmm.
Even now, 2 weekends ago, James wasn't with me, and I had that heaviness, and it's almost like it's suffocating me.
Do you ever sleep in other rooms and it does that?
Downstairs, I sleep
Yeah.
downstairs at the moment because I can't sleep upstairs on my own.
Oh my gosh.
See, I don't get no effect though, do I?
No,
Doesn't affect me.
It doesn't affect you. It just affects me.
Wow. Have you contacted any of the paranormal people close to you?
No, I haven't.
Might be worth looking into.
Yeah, it does, because it literally
Whatever that is,
puts me
turning
in.
your life upside down. It's gonna weigh on your brain, and you
It's
should
pushing me
have fear.
down,
Yeah,
and it's putting
you
me
should
into temporary paralysis.
emotional. Yeah, you need to contact somebody. I don't.
Yeah.
I wish I knew anybody over there, but I don't.
No, it scares
Oh
me.
my gosh.
But when James is with me, I don't get it at all.
That's he's scared of me.
Yeah, probably
Nothing's
is.
fucking scared of you, man.
It's got to be a male spirit, obviously. Wow.
Literally, it pushes me down and it paralyzes me. And I wake up, or not wake up, but I come out of it, and I'm literally saturated in tears, where I've been trying to fight it off.
Oh my God.
It
And
does. Your house does have some kind of weird
It does. You know
energy
that,
behind it,
Charlie.
doesn't it? Whenever
You've seen
you're,
it through the windows. You've seen it in.
I mean,
most
the
places.
thing is with your house is between the five of you. It's a busy house anyway, isn't it?
Mhm.
But I mean, I've been in your house at fuck knows what time on my own downstairs when everyone else is asleep. Me and my dad have rocked back home, fucking blasted. And even then, it's a bit like, fuck, you don't feel alone, do you?
No.
It always feels like accompanied. It always feels. It's a weird feeling, really, isn't it? It really is.
Do you remember we had that angel, and you actually said to me, "Get that out the house. I don't like that," and I took it out the house.
Yeah, it freaked me the fuck out. I won't lie to you, man. There's
it's
been,
true, though.
but there has been, like, I personally am not religious. I personally don't believe in any sort of sentient being or anything, but I do believe in some sort of spiritual
There's an entity.
Yeah, and
there's an entity around.
yeah, and there is something about your house that fucking freaks me out, at least.
No.
See, don't bother me. It's weird when you be here by yourself. Even I get a bit, whoa, man, I don't want to be here because it's just, like, you know, it's not often that I'm here by myself. There's always someone here. But if Mel says we're going to go to Swindon, whatever, see grandkids or whatever, I stay here and I'm sitting there and I have to have all the lights on because there's just, when you're by yourself, you just get this real.
Take that from me, mailbag.
You get this real weird, real weird feeling.
Yeah.
And yeah, it freaks me out a little bit at times.
That's insane, man.
Yeah, but I've never had no trouble here, but it just seems to affect other people.
Yeah, but you can see it in her eyes that she's extremely bothered.
Mm. Yeah.
That's upsetting.
It does. There's something about your house, isn't there? Just even when you're, even when it's just like the two of us. Sometimes it always feels like there's more than just the two of us. You know what I mean? Like when we've sat, because I don't actually think I might have been a couple of times. I don't actually ever think I've been there on my own specifically without anyone else in the building per se. But like, there have been times where you've gone out for a cigarette or whatever, and it's just been me and you home, and I'm sat in the front room, like, you know what I mean?
Mm. You get
like,
that. You get like an eerie feeling come over,
Yeah,
as if you're being watched, or
Yeah.
I mean, Heather, did you see that angel photograph? Did Charlie send it to you?
Yeah, I saw that.
What do you think?
That's crazy. You can see the like definition in the wings.
You can, can't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
But out in Mel's garden, it's just, there was like a bit of wasteland there. They just sadly built on it now. But there was always like you always felt you was being watched by something. And I was always cutting back the trees and having to tidy up in the garden. And then one day, I just started taking these photographs, and I went on these ghost pages on Facebook and made friends on it. And there's a lady out in Australia, and she sort of like scans the photographs, and she would say, there must have been a farm there at one time. There's children in the photograph. There's farmers. There's soldiers.
I actually remember you showing me that, and she'd draw kind of around where these specific things were, wouldn't she?
That's it. I've still got the photographs that she done it to, and she scans it, and then she said, there's a man on a horse there, and there's a man. And when she outlined the photographs, you could actually see that there was actually someone there. And you'd see like a lady with like a floppy hat on, and a farmer's wife and a farmer.
But you could go back to the thing was, you could go back to the original photograph that you had taken, and then knowing that you'd seen it, you could almost see the kind of, it would become a lot more kind of clear. Even in the original photograph, initially first ever taken before sent, you could kind of see this apparent outline, couldn't you?
Yeah. But the garden, I mean, then one day I've gone out in the garden and just messing around with my camera, just took a picture of the grass. I know it sounds absurd, but when I looked at the photograph, there was like do you remember it, Mel? Like a picture of an animal skeleton there in a ghost form. I know it sounds really bizarre. I wish I had the photograph. I don't think I have anymore, but this picture was just like a dog, a cat, or something small, and you could see it in a skeleton form. And I don't know, it's just really weird, because it's just a lot of weird things happening in this garden.
This house is just weird.
But the garden seems to be quite a hot spot for paranormal activity, maybe. But it's interesting, but a bit eerie at times outside.
Yeah.
Could definitely have some strange effects.
You get history than we do. You get different sort of haunt than we do. You know what I mean? There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more years of history in London than there is, in Kentucky. So it could be anything.
Have you ever thought about going back to investigate?
Yeah, I have.
And what did you say? It's been 6 or 7 years.
Something like that. Yeah.
Would you go back to it now?
Probably, yeah.
And
would you like to invite the Halford Sucks crew along?
well, my
what
question
happens?
to you was going to be: would you ever consider traveling and doing it outside of the US?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you think that the energy and the spirits and stuff would be a lot different to that of what you experience in the US as a whole?
Yeah, I think it would be, like I said, there's you guys have thousands more years history before anybody ever even found America. You know what I mean? So we do have a lot of the. I have Indian heritage. A lot of people do, but I think there's been more bloodshed on your soil.
Yeah.
You know, as far as wars, and I just think it would be a more intense energy. You know, fairy tales and ghost stories, and no matter how close they are to the truth or not, are always founded on something real. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I would love to go somewhere like Stonehenge or an old castle, or you know, we don't have that sort of thing here. I think that would be so intriguing. The closest thing we have Waverly Hills Hospital here. That's about as close as you're going to get to an old haunted castle. And Waverly is booked out 3 years in advance for investigation. You can hardly get that place. Yeah, it's an old tuberculosis hospital, and it's like 6 floors. I think it's huge. And
Right.
one floor that's highly active was the children's level. And the interior of this place has one connecting. You know how you have like a trash chute, right, to dump your trash?
Yeah.
They had a body chute, and there's an entire tunnel that they just piled full of bodies with tuberculosis. So it's like it's a huge hot spot for paranormal. But that's the closest thing to like going to a castle that I have here. So I would love to go overseas and investigate.
Yeah.
Just to get a different experience.
Cool.
Charlie, if Heather ever come over here, we could take it to Pluckley.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be very interesting.
So
Pluckley is meant to be the most haunted place in England, or in Kent, like our county. And there's a teacher that hung himself, the headless horseman, the highwayman, the screaming woods.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Huh?
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, you heard of it? You heard of Pluckley?
Yeah.
Well, we done a job there, and like, 'cause I'm a demolition worker. And yeah, so go on. I was going to say there's a pub there called the Black Horse, and they was after new management. And on the chalkboard, the board outside the pub, he said, "Would you work here as a manager if you had the guts to?" Because it was one of the most haunted pubs in that area, and they'd been through so many management, like so many people had worked there and couldn't handle the paranormal activity that was going on in the pub, that they're going through managers left, right, and centre. And yeah, I think it's shut down at the moment.
Probably COVID lockdown, right?
Sorry?
I said probably from COVID, or just.
I think it was shut down before that, to be fair. Somebody's telling me. And then further down, there's a pub called the Averley Arms, which is meant to be haunted as well. So, yeah, I'd like to go there. Charlie wants me to go there with him, but I think I'd probably may lose the plot a bit if I went.
Well, if you guys come over here, I'll get you a spot at Bobby Mackey's. It's one of the most haunted places here. It's the biggest collection of haunted artifacts in the United States, and it's also a pizza place. So during the day they serve pizza and give tours of their haunted shit. And at night you could do investigating, and some fucked up shit happens there.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah. But Bob Mackey, famous.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
I took a photograph of our local graveyard up where Charlie lives, and I showed my dad it when my dad was alive, and he said, "Oh look, there's 2 people sat there, 2 ghosts," and it got me thinking. Could one ghost, I know it sounds a really bizarre question, but could a ghost see another ghost, or spirit see another spirit?
I'd like to believe so. Especially if it's somebody like my mom and dad. My mom and dad have been married for 52 years. You know, they still cuddle on the couch. You know, I believe that sometimes in certain, and I like to believe, I don't know that it's true, but in instances like that, you know, that spirits see each other, but we have no way of proving it.
No.
Yeah.
Because I do demolition work, and I get told the stories from the old boys that I work with about old hospitals that they worked in, and where they've stayed on site and they walked around the hospitals at night and they hear like the morgue doors rattling and you'd walk through a certain area of the hospital and it'd be freezing cold.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it'd be a red hot day outside and they'd walk into like the morgue, or what would have been the morgue, before taking it down. And they'd say like, they'd see like green mist going across the hospital and sort of like around the grounds and things like that. And I was like, because I'm fascinated by the paranormal.
Yeah.
Even though I'll probably shit myself if I ever see a spirit. And I'd run a mile.
You don't get used to it. You really don't get used to it.
No. Mm.
But the first one is always the scariest, man.
Yeah. But maybe one day I'll do it. Maybe I'll go out and investigate. I'd like to.
That's what I'm saying. This place is built on.
The easiest object for somebody to do, and I'm not promoting doing it at home because, you know, you're putting energy into it. But if you decide to, the flashlight trick is probably.
I've seen that one.
That's probably the easiest. I put a video in the Beers and Bullshit chat, and it's us communicating with something via phone. And that's, you know, the best to use too. Just in case in your head you're like, oh, well, I didn't unscrew that enough. You know what I mean? When they start lighting up too, after one's lit and you're like, can you light the other one up? And they light it up, then you're like, okay, well, we're here.
Yeah.
You know.
I've seen a video on YouTube. There was a couple of blokes. One was a paranormal investigator, and he had a mate of him who was a total non-believer. And they put the torch, as you say, on the side in the kitchen, and it started to move, started to roll back and forth and turn itself on. And I was asking questions that would be like 2 flashes for yes and 1 flash for no or whatever. And this geezer just totally freaked out. The one who didn't believe it. And it's brilliant to watch it. Yeah.
I've seen people be like, oh my God, I have to live here. You know, you've been living here. It's cool.
Is there a reason that, once again, the whole concept of a Ouija board fascinates, really does. Is there a reason that a spirit would find it easier to communicate through that than there would be through something else? Is it because they're channeling through you almost?
You're giving them something to interact with.
Yeah,
is what it boils down to. You know, a flashlight is the same thing. When you're going through your day-to-day life and you're like, oh, fuck, there's something behind me. That's, you know, they're there, but that's still not you trying to make a connection and or interaction with them. Right? Yeah. So you just have to watch what you're putting into that. I think Ouija boards work sometimes. I think sometimes they don't. You got a fucking asshole pushing it around trying to freak you out. But it's the same thing as any type. Like I said, I don't recommend it if you have the wrong intent, it's going to go wrong.
Have you ever actually done one?
Yes,
And if you don't mind, what was your experience with it?
There's a park maybe a mile from my house. And I was born in West Virginia. We moved here when I was 9. And we've always lived kind of close to it. My mom used to go over there and walk. Well, not 2 or 3 weeks after we moved here, a lady got killed there at night. So the people I was running around with and drinking with, and we were getting fucked up and driving, you know how kids do. We decided to go. There's a National Guard armory across the street that's got a great big parking lot, and they use it for like events and stuff too. So we decided to go across the street and try to talk to the lady that got killed at the park. Smart, right? Totally. So we start talking to her, and she said it was her, and we asked her if she had bad intentions, and she's like no, and da 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 da. Well, when you use a Ouija board, you have to tell the spirit goodbye. You know, I'm done talking to you. Goodbye. Slide, you say goodbye, because it's believed that spirits can attach to it. So she interacted with us a little bit, I say she loosely. And Billy, the guy I was with, was like, "Oh, we're not getting much here. Let's go to the graveyard. Of course, we're going to take a fucking Ouija board to the graveyard, right?" So we take it to the graveyard, and we start talking on this thing, and we look up, and we can physically see heads peeped up over the gravestones. It's like they were waiting in line to take turns. We jumped over each other and piled into that Mustang and got the fuck out of there. Got the fuck out of there. So fast forward to like 2 days later, Billy calls me and he's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "What? You ready to go out?" You know, we always went to Evansville. It's about like an hour north from here. Go drink at the gay bars and shit because they were the best place to go get fucking plastered at. And he's like, "I think I brought something home with me." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And there was like shit getting knocked out off of shelves and doors slamming and shit because I 100% fully believe it was attached to that Ouija board. So we took the Ouija board back out to the graveyard and told it goodbye. Everything stopped. So since then I don't fuck with Ouija boards. But I was also 19 or 20 and really fucked up.
They say that, don't they, the Ouija boards, you shouldn't dabble with the devil. That's the saying that goes with it.
Well, any type of paranormal work can be construed as that. I mean, my mom genuinely believes that I am fucking with the devil when I was doing the paranormal stuff. She's like, "It's devil worshipping." No, it's not. You know. So
Do you think that in terms of places like graveyards and places that ultimately have those connotations even behind people that don't necessarily believe in it, i.e. skeptics, etc., that taking something like a Ouija board to a place that would be seen as a hotspot necessarily would be more likely to get a response from? Do you think if you were to take balls and your equipment, etc., to a graveyard, you'd be more likely to get a response than going somewhere else?
I've been to graveyards we got nothing off of, and I've been to graveyards that, you know, we got touched and hair pulled and the EMF detectors were going crazy. I mean, it's just different with every situation. Like there's no certain spot that I could be like, this is the GPS location and go here and you're going to have a ghost. You know what I mean? Like,
well, the thing is with graveyards is they're inherently creepy anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're very much, fuck me, there's hundreds of, however many amount of dead bodies buried here. If I'm going to find something, I'm going to find it here, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And is that necessarily true or no?
I personally believe that some spirits get stuck into like a loop and then walk from where they're at to where they died and back. You know what I mean? Like I think it's different. I do believe some spirits reside in graveyards, absolutely. But do they want to talk to you? Maybe, maybe not. You know, some of them just don't want to talk to you.
Would you think there's a reason for that? Do you think that's because perhaps as a person they were sheltered as a person and unsociable as people, and that reflects on them as a spirit?
I genuinely believe that they're just as afraid of us as we are of them, except for the ones that have had acknowledgement or, you know, knocked something over and scared somebody, and then they're like, "Oh fuck, they know I'm here." Like I genuinely believe that's how it is. Like until somebody makes contact with them, I think that they're scared of us also because they can't say hey and we hear them. You know.
But just as a spirit can do bad things and malicious things, you think that spirits can go ahead and do good things as well? And by that I mean like it's obviously like you said with your last experience in investigating when you had the bad experience with a spirit itself, and that was causing negative impacts on people's lives. Do you think that spirits can go ahead and cause positive impacts on people's lives as well? Or do you think that as people and as close-minded individuals, people are too scared to see that despite it potentially being their intention itself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and especially when people get to dabbling into the paranormal don't know anything about it. Like, say you cleanse your house, right? And you don't do it properly, said bad spirit avoids the cleansing, but you cleanse out the good spirits, then that malicious spirit is more open to malicious intent. I believe sometimes we have spirits around us that are literally like a guardian angel that keep those things from getting to us.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that they're like going to do your dishes or anything for you. You know what I mean? But I do believe that they keep more negative energy away from you.
Yeah.
You know, that's just like I was trying to tell Mel about Tony. That's probably why he's cool downstairs, because Tony was like, "Oh, fucked up. Oh, look at this fucker in this woman's house. I'm going to protect her." You know what I mean? So I think that's probably why I that maybe Tony's tied to the downstairs of that place. And possibly whatever else is in there is tied to the upstairs.
Yeah.
You know, positive energy can create a barrier. It's just like a magnet.
Yeah, he's stopping the bad guy from coming down, kind of thing.
Yeah. He's keeping the bag at the top of the stairs.
Do you think that in the spirit world that a spirit will come back because it doesn't believe it's dead, or he wants to put right what he's done wrong in life? Maybe. Do you know what I'm saying? That they,
Yeah. I think there's some of that. You know.
you know, that they don't want to believe that they're dead, and that they want to come back to see the ones that they loved.
Yeah.
To see how people are, and
I do think they come back and check on us. I think, especially when children are involved, just like Charlie seeing his grandmother. You know, she didn't get to see him in life, so I think that would be an occasion where she was back to check on him. You obviously wouldn't be as open to reception as he would being a child. So
no, because they do
I
say
think
children see things, don't they? That adults
that would be kind of a thing where, you know, Charlie's a kid, he's innocent. I'm going to talk to Charlie, and it's going to let the whole family know I'm okay. So I absolutely do believe that does happen.
I see a video of this little kid kept seeing something in his cupboard or in his bedroom, and was talking to it. And he said, "Oh, it's my friend. He's a little boy or something, or a little boy and a little girl. I can't remember now." Anyhow, they got a police artist to come round, and the little boy had to describe what the child looked like. And this little boy described what he could see. And when the police artist drew the picture, he said, "That's who comes." And it's a picture of a little boy, and I think a little girl as well, that came to visit him every day and become friends with him. How do you feel about, you know, sometimes a child's spirit can turn evil, turn nasty, maybe?
I don't think that a child's spirit necessarily turns nasty. I mean, I guess it potentially could if it had been, you know, hundreds of years. And frustration out of, I'm dead and I can't interact with anybody. But I think for the most part, when child spirits approach children, they just want to play. I don't, you know, I don't think it's anything more than they just want to play.
But what if the parents are frightened and felt that maybe they didn't like the idea of their child talking to a spirit child and felt that they need to get rid of it? Could that spirit of the child maybe then? Look, I don't mean turn nasty, but could it
Potentially
go.
the parents, potentially towards the parents, like it could.
Yeah.
You know, just out of sheer protection for their friend. Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Like they don't want to lose the friendship of the child, but they don't like the idea of the parents trying to get.
It's a possibility, definitely.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on like mediums and in terms of those who directly contact the dead and spirits passed on from our realm?
I was really skeptical about mediums until I met Candy. Candy doesn't tell anybody she's a medium. I think a lot of them that boast about it are full of shit. I do genuinely believe there are people that aren't mediums. I mean, Candy could pull details out of nowhere that were bang on every time. I don't know, man. I know there's a lot of fakes out there. I think it's possible? Yes. But I think just like anything, the ones that are bad fuck it up for the ones that are good at it. You know, I do believe it's a genuine thing.
And have you ever met anyone who can kind of see manifestations of spirits, or do you very much believe that if a spirit is manifesting itself, it's visible to everyone?
I don't think it depends on the instance. I think a group of people can see an apparition, but I do believe that they can pick and choose who they show themselves to. Obviously, that last house that I was in, I didn't physically see manifestation, but the corner of the room that upset me got so black, and like it progressively got black. It was dark, but it got darker. And Candy could see two men standing there, and I couldn't. All I could see was dark. So a lot of it is how in tune you are. You know what I mean? There's no set rule book on any. Everybody's different, just like in life. But I can't. I haven't. Not to say that I can't, but I haven't seen any detailed manifestation. But she has, and I've been there to witness it, and her be right on like soldiers and stuff like that. So
you do believe in that area of it?
Yeah. The ones you see on TV, though, half of them are bullshit.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's where a lot of it comes to fruition, though, is the fact that it's incredibly dramatized on television because of, well, personally myself, I know about clickbaiting and, you know, using dramatization as viewage. Do you know what I mean? So obviously, if you're making money from it on telly, you want to act it up as much as possible, don't you?
Yeah. You know, where we would do research and I keep it to myself till the end, they give everybody the details so the median could be like, oh, his name was Gary Brown and he was 32, and they've already fed all that information to him. So
yeah. But you do as an individual believe that there are mediums and people who can speak to those who have passed on, I say.
Absolutely.
I find it really interesting because, you know, like discussed before, it is incredibly dramatized on television and programs and stuff, ultimately for viewership and for money.
Yeah.
But hearing it from, getting the affirmation essentially from someone who has seen it firsthand is obviously a lot more believable, and is a lot more kind of, you know, when there's nothing to gain from it, ultimately what you're saying here and what you've said for the last few hours, you gain absolutely fuck all from. So there is no reason to lie. And, like, you know, it's not even like I've told you to turn around and say things or anything like that, because, you know, once again, it's not like Ben and I make any money from it. You know what I mean? So it's...
And I'm not make any money from it at all.
Yeah, exactly. There is no reason to lie about it. And I think...
I wasn't even trying to be on a podcast.
Listen, Hev, we get it. We forced you on. Just accept it, right?
My cat is over you.
I like your cat. He's massive.
Where is he?
She is fat.
Right there.
No, don't fat shame the cat. She's just chilling. Bless her.
I saw her mincing about earlier. Like, she's a big girl. What a diamond. Love her.
You've confused her now. She's like, what the fuck you woken me up for?
Why you give me attention
No, I do
now, bitch?
because she'll come up to me, like, I've got a table beside my bed, and she'll walk up and take her little paw and pat my face and go, meow. So I went to sleep and I go, meow, and scare the fuck out of her. I do it all the time. It's a trade-off.
Bless her. Was there anything else in terms of stories or anything you wanted to share, Heather, because I've been absolutely fucking fascinated. And
Did you watch the video?
Have you watched
What-
the videos, Dad? Or do you want me to link them to you afterwards?
Yeah, link them to me.
Right, I'll send you the link. But I've just been completely engrossed, and I know that if at some point we don't cut it off, I will go for hours.
Yeah.
And going on with the fact it's midnight already, like.
I keep forgetting it's late for you guys. It's 6 o'clock.
Is it? Oh man, we're midnight. We're pushing the limits. But like, no, I could genuinely go on for hours for.
Yeah,
because it's not like it's. I mean, I've been incredibly fascinated by this sort of thing for a long time, but it's not like you ever speak to anyone necessarily with first-hand experience that, for whatever reason, is dramatizing it or playing it up. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the fascinating part, because anyone that does potentially come into contact or have some variation of experience with it probably does act up a lot along the lines of it, don't they? Because because whether it's for money or whether it's for views or whatever, it is a reason for people. There is always a reason for someone to turn around and be, well, I did this, I did that, and I went through this and I went through that, and it's like, shut the fuck up. Shit, you know what I mean? And I think that's perhaps the most fascinating part for me. Like the first-hand experience and the first-hand kind of I guess just everything that you've had to go through alongside of it as well, because there is clear that there's emotions involved, and it isn't just you saying, well, fuck, I did this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's incredible to me, because a lot of the things that you see online and on the television, there is no emotional attachment. You know what I mean? It's very much played up for the sense of making money.
But it's about them people. It's about those people making money and becoming famous, Charlie.
Yeah.
That's about.
I don't talk about it in front of a lot of people, I guess. I just burst that whole fucking bubble of mine. But I really don't talk to it. Like, I get emotional.
Yeah.
I kept it together good. I don't know if you saw me when Mel was talking, I started tearing up. When there's something legit involved, and it's not me being sad for a person, or it's just it's just my thing. You know, I can walk into a house that's super active and just start bawling for no reason. So I'm very, because I'm not a big crier, I'm not a whiner, I'm not any of that shit. So the paranormal brings out a very raw emotion in me that it's a very rare occasion that I speak openly about it, because
But I
do
think
get
that
emotional.
ultimately, as a whole, in terms of affirmation and proving it all, that probably helps, because there's a massive stigma around like paranormal and that type of activity where people are just like, yeah, been through that, back the fuck away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People are very much like, yeah, I've been through it. I've seen a fucking German soldier ghost in the middle of fucking a field in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, what do you mean? Do you know what I mean? And there's very much a stigma behind it that a lot of people will dramatize it, but seeing the raw emotion behind it is incredible, and it really does kind of affirm and make it much more believable to skeptics and people who don't necessarily agree with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to
I mean,
me,
I've
I
been
think,
worshiper.
yeah. Well,
You know?
that's exactly the thing. Do you know what I mean? If there are any questions, start putting them in the chat now, and we go. But there is one. Mediums who do appointments through the phone or over the internet. What are your thoughts on them? Do you think that's doable? Do you think that's bullshit?
I think it's bullshit, especially if it's on the internet, because I can go on someone's Facebook and read through their timeline and see their breakups and their fucking relationships, and that their mom died, and that you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's really not hard to get information about people off the internet. So some of them could be legit, but I am more skeptical when it's something like that, because I can fucking use Google too.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I personally know for a fact that if you Google my name, quite a lot comes up regarding me. Perhaps it's slightly different in my perspective of being that public figure type, as opposed to, you know, your everyday average Joe. But in terms of that, I know for a fact that if you were to Google me, I'd imagine there would be quite a few posts that come up regarding the loss of my granddad, especially over the last few months, regarding, you know, my feelings in the last few months. Obviously, all you have to do is fucking look me up on Facebook. And there's a whole shitstorm of things that comes up regarding everything that I've had to go through in the last few months myself, and how difficult would it be to go from there? I mean, if you did your research, you could go to the beginning of the stream and say, like, oh, that chain that you're wearing, I know that that was your granddad's, you know what I mean? And shit like that. So, I mean, maybe it's different for me because obviously a lot more of my life is publicized than maybe that of someone else. But no, I do completely agree. Google is a fucking powerful thing.
You can go off of key events in people's lives, like births and deaths and things that are publicized or people want to bitch about on Facebook. And I can make up a whole load of bullshit that you would completely believe because I know details about your life.
Yeah.
You
All
know,
it
so
takes
I'm
is an element of truth to bring that initial bit of belief, and it kind of works.
Yeah.
Which is the crazy part, I guess. Have you personally ever had an experience with a medium? Have you ever gone and spoken to a medium yourself that you genuinely believe is real, and then worked from there with them?
No. The only people I've ever known to ask about anything have been close personal friends of mine that I know aren't bullshit, you know. But like I said, you know, listening to me talk, I probably sound like I'm like, oh yeah, the paranormal is great, you know, but I do approach it with skepticism because there's so many frauds out there, and I'm just giving like my personal experience and my personal belief. But coming into any situation, I'm always skeptic, whether it's a haunt, somebody and their abilities, you know. So I'm skeptical about everything. Do I believe some bullshit person that's like, call 1-800 and I'll give you a tarot card reading? Fuck no.
No, that's bollocks. Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that when there's people making money from it, and a lot of money, especially on like television shows and YouTube videos getting millions of hits, that a lot of it is probably dramatized or at least bullshit. You know what I mean? And I think that's ultimately the raw subject that has come from this. Is not a single person from the conversation has made any money, and you have seen the raw emotions coming from the one who has had the actual experience up firsthand with it. You know what I mean?
I actually lost money doing this podcast. I could have went to work for 4 hours.
But no, it has been a pleasure. I don't think we have any further questions to wrap up unless you two have anything to add.
No, not that I can think of. To be honest, I have been absolutely enamored by your stories. I am sorry about all the questions that I asked, but genuinely, it has been a proper eye opener to me.
It has been absolutely incredible. It really has.
It doesn't bother me.
I don't know if, from either of your perspective, it's changed your thoughts on anything. I know, obviously, my dad had strong beliefs in it anyway. But Ben, what about you? What was your thoughts on this coming into it, and what are your thoughts leaving out from it?
Well, coming into it, obviously, because I haven't had any particular experiences myself, it's been a very foreign concept to me. It's been very much something I've been quite skeptical about because of the dramatization, as you've all mentioned, in the media and all that tat. So, yeah, I have been skeptical coming into it. But as we mentioned last podcast, and as you've mentioned this podcast, it's because it's a more personal experience, it does change my mind on it a lot, and it does sort of make me think, hold on a minute, maybe there's something going on here. Maybe I'm not right, you know. But no, it's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on, and thank you, Daddy Halford, for joining in with your stories and producing this beautiful child of yours, who we all hate and we all call a cunt anyway.
I mean, you say that, I think I'm fucking beautiful and a sex god, but regardless, that's irrelevant.
I sometimes think you're a gobby little shit, but I
well, you know, your opinion's invalid. It's genuinely, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on, Heather. I've had a cracking time. It's definitely been an eye opener for me, and I believed in it personally. But it's been really interesting myself to kind of listen to the perspective of someone who's experienced a lot more of it firsthand than perhaps the normal person. Do you know what I mean? And it really has been incredible, and it really has been interesting. And I really wish I'd have had more time to perhaps make a list of questions. So maybe next time we'll have to get you back on and we'll have to say, listen, Heather, I have 100 questions for you. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, even if we don't do it in podcast, at some point we'll just drag you back in, kicking and screaming. Hello, we have more fucking questions for you. I'm sorry, you're stuck here now. Answer our fucking questions.
Don't be surprised, Heather, if at random intervals throughout the next couple of weeks you get questions from me in Discord. Like, what do you think about this? Like, what about this one? I mean, I've just had this happen. Like, what's your thoughts? You know what I mean? It will happen. I know it will at some point.
Fine. I miss
and
it
I'm sure
anyway.
at some point as well, my dad will probably call this group chat in about 7 months' time.
No, I'll do it again tomorrow night.
And no one will answer it except you. And if you do, feel free to tell him to fuck off because that's what everyone else does. To say he's
not going Discord anymore.
Well, yeah, exactly. Last time we went on Discord, he called a call from about 7 months ago. That was an interesting. But regardless,
I had a lot to say after 7 months.
Yeah, I bet you fucking did. It genuinely has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. I've had a cracking time. And yeah, I mean, anything else to round it out?
I'll just start to say, absolutely fascinated by it. Absolutely brilliant. And learnt a lot, listened a lot, and thanks for answering my questions. Even if they don't always make sense. But
and tell Mel I'll be praying for her. If she wants to talk to somebody, she can message me on Facebook.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, well, I'm happy to round it off there if everyone else is.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's been an absolute pleasure then, folks. Thank you again for another fun podcast, another very interesting podcast, and this one ultimately incredibly eye-opening as well. I've had a lot of fun. It's been incredible in terms of like the knowledge and experience gained from this as well, because normally it is labelled beers and bullshit for a reason, and that Ben and I normally get pissed and talk shit. And, this one has ultimately been a bit more than that this time, at least, and I'm incredibly grateful that. Thank you once again, Heather, for coming on. It's been absolutely amazing. Sorry if there was potentially some obtrusive questions asked that might have been a bit too far. But once again, it's been incredible. Thank you for opening up with us. And yeah, I guess because Ben and I still haven't managed to come up with a catchy goodbye yet, I guess we'll see it out the normal way. So regardless, we'll be back again live on Facebook tomorrow for the normal stream. And in the meantime, don't just suck it, folks. Halford suck it. And we will indeed catch you tomorrow. Big love. Thank you for another cracking episode of Beers and Bullshit, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, nerds.
See you later.